Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, today the League of Ordinary Gentlemen proudly bring to you the Fantasy Football 5. Introducing Boss of the Wall, Brian Roberts.
Count.
Quick Wit, Slow Feet, Brian Roberts.
Yep.
Jake, Coach Root. And JT, the commish.
And how?
How we doing, gentlemen?
Yeah, good.
You should be doing good.
Fair to middling.
Not only.
He's trying to hold in the smile.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
You know what? Look, he's taking
I've
this.
He's happy. He's having a good day. He's had a good week.
I have had a good week.
You know why?
Champ.
Christmas and New Year's.
That's because you're the champion. Not only.
We are the champions. Except for Brian.
Yeah,
He's the only champion.
He's the only
We're
champion.
not the
So what is this for you? Number 2?
Number 2. Deuce.
Puts you, I don't know, let's say there's a tie for first.
It's a three-way tie at the table.
So that puts you at tied for 4? No, who's got 2?
It puts him solely at
I'm
first.
solely
Yeah,
at
because
first.
Solely fourth.
yeah, because nobody else has 2.
Right.
So
And 3 of y'all got it.
3 with 3,
1 with 2.
1 with 2,
2 with 1.
and then
all right,
Michael
let's
Michael and the 2 Andrews each have 1.
So JT, Ryan, Jake, 3 each.
Yep.
So that's 9. Brian has
2.
2.
That's for 11. And then Andrew, and Michael.
We really been doing this long.
Yeah. 1,
Where's our white
1.
one?
So 9, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, that's right. That's right. You're in sole possession of 4th place. Not only are you in sole possession of 4th place, you are $400 richer. All right, look, I counted it. You can look. You can check behind me.
I trust you.
There's your 400. You only get 400 because you decided to give Broach his money back.
Yep. That was an agreement before the season.
Venmo'd Broach a little bit earlier, so he's got his 50.
Good deal.
And
Tell him. Go ahead and tell him.
Brian never paid me.
So the whole commissioner fee that we thought was getting taken out was actually just,
No, there's no commissioner fee. I do this pro bono.
I told him.
well, we do it amateur bono.
I didn't want to jinx it. I didn't want to jinx it.
about that.
I didn't want to jinx it.
Yeah, I started
This
thinking.
sounds very douchey.
It is. Go ahead and tell him.
You were like, I'm not going to pay him unless I lose?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't pay this year
Why?
after draft night.
Because you're a victim of the system.
I had a feeling I was going to win. And if I told anybody, I feel like everybody started pulling for me to lose.
So is that,
Because you
now,
know-
now, will that
Hold on,
work
hold
if
on,
I
hold on.
don't pay taxes and I feel like the government's going to collapse?
Alternate
Couple things. Go ahead.
alternate theory, real quick. How many of us at the table believe that, or that Brian was late, forgot to get money out, and then just kept forgetting to get money out? Then after a couple weeks, he's like, "Oh, I might as well just say that it was because I thought I was going to win." And
And that's fair. That's fair. How many times have I missed payment on you?
Oh, never.
Never.
Also,
How many times-
we were at Andrew's house about 3.5 hours before the draft started. And Brian did leave one time.
I did.
He came back. I think he left again.
I had to go get chairs.
He'd have to go get chairs.
True.
That's
I had the money.
You know.
Look, hey, it all
You got
works
your
out.
$20 a day because I know damn well I'm not going to ask you.
We'll talk about that.
Top 8 teams made the playoffs. I'm not going to make playoffs.
Top 18 make the playoffs?
8.
Oh. Top 8 teams. Okay.
What did you think?
Well,
Brian
Brian,
said
you got
top
a new
18. I was like, we
tradition.
only got 10 teams in the league.
No.
You got a new tradition. Not only do you have a
Sober
locked-in
draft.
team name,
Mhm.
which how many people do lock in their team name and don't usually change it? I know I don't.
You don't change yours. I hadn't changed mine since I won my first one.
I used to change mine every year, but I've stuck with Fantasy Phenom the past couple of years.
Scorpion's always been
Yes.
Scorpion King, right?
Jordan's
He's
team stays
just
Jordan's
scored
team.
now.
Yeah.
So it's
It's the same thing.
Yeah,
It's like going from the Knickerbockers to the Knicks.
yeah.
It's one of those things when you win one, it's kind of like a
Okay, let's stick with this. I found
Yeah.
what works. I found what works.
especially to I mean like
I didn't name my team. You named my team.
No, I didn't.
You forced my hand.
I like
There was no other option.
there
No,
wasn't.
no.
I like his team name in basketball.
System seems fair.
System seems fair. Like I've just been screwing him this whole time.
See, I used to change my team name every year.
Mhm.
Because if you go back to the record books, I think every time I've won, I had a different team name.
Roddy White Walkers.
Roddy White Walkers and Saving Private Matt Ryan.
Saving Private Matt Ryan. I'm trying to think of another one. Of
What was your
yours.
13?
It was the first year of one. I don't even know if we didn't have it. We didn't have auto. I mean, it was on paper. So
Broach has always been Autobahn.
The paper
Yeah,
team.
Broach has always been Autobahn Time.
Yeah.
Good name for him.
I think Ransditties is locked in from here forward. I think that's the perfect name for him.
The last time
Does
I
he know how to
changed,
change the team name?
He's changed it before.
That's
What I
right.
really think happened, I think he typed in something that Yahoo just didn't feel comfortable presenting. So they just,
I don't know.
or maybe he
Maybe
like
he's like
tried
Prince.
to. Maybe he tried. Maybe it could be. I'm thinking maybe he tried to like do it like through his like voice. Like maybe he was driving or something. He's like, I'm changing my team name.
Alyssa, put in Babu. It's Alexa, you idiot.
And then just said,
Jingle, put this in. Like, what are you talking about? It's Google. Just put a question mark
I
tag
don't know,
on
man.
it.
It's like Prince. You know? It's like Prince.
no, tell us about it.
Artist formerly known as Prince. He became a symbol. And Andrew is a symbol.
I said that about 45 seconds ago, but I agree with you. I'm proud of you.
I'm in my own little world today.
I understand. It's champ.
Champ.
No,
All right.
Just having a good
Last
time.
time I renamed my team, by the way, I named it KA the Slayer because I drafted Keenan Allen, and that's his nickname. And he got hurt week
He
one and was out
slayed
for the
his
season.
kneecap and
So I said,
ankle
I'm not naming my team name after players anymore, especially if I like them because they're going to get hurt.
Fair enough. Fair
Sense.
enough. All right. So
I don't
with
know.
the championship game of our fantasy football season, we had Autobahn Time Josh Broach sitting in second place.
Still is.
Well, he was
sitting in
sorry,
first.
excuse me. He was the number 1 seed coming in.
Oh, okay.
Brian, you were the number 7 seed? Six
Six.
seed. There we go. So we had a 1v6 matchup. Broach brought in a 9-4 record. Brian with a 6-7 record. But Brian, you had a pretty good year. Just
Bad luck.
bad luck because you ended up second most points.
Yeah.
Second most points in the league.
Who had most? Was it Broach or Reitmeyer?
It was Reitmeyer.
Okay.
It was Reitmeyer.
Birch was third.
All right, so let's take a look at the championship game.
Real quick, can you go over our predictions for the championship game?
Yeah, sure. So
Did we do? Oh, yeah, we did Pick'ems.
all three of y'all
Because we did points, too.
took
right?
Broach.
That's right.
You're welcome.
I
That's right.
believed in you.
You did.
I knew it. I just had a feeling. You know why? Because you didn't pay me. I knew that you had a
You
feeling.
didn't know that.
I didn't. I started looking. I'm like, man, I'm just not coming up with this money right, man. Did I pay?
Me and Brian had an agreement about 5 or 6 weeks ago that every time I picked him to win, he lost. Every time I picked the person that went against him, it felt like he won. So I just said I'd start picking the person he was playing against every single time.
We did have some pretty close calls, me and you, Jake, with the point total. You had 129 to 121 in favor of Broach. I had 130 to 117 in favor of Brian. The final ended up being 138, 131.
7-point gap.
Close matchup. Close
Very
matchup.
close.
Let's take a look at it. So on the Broach side of the ball, man,
Offense, defense. No, this is Broach. Brian.
Broach
Broach
ball,
side.
Broach ball, dude.
The double up.
The
Dude,
double
his
up.
Double up smacked your double up.
Golly, yes, it did.
Get the double up last.
Because they played last.
That is true. That was the Sunday night
That's
game
the
against
key.
Tennessee in the snow.
And a touchdown that he almost had.
Changes the whole
Is that a jet?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's over.
All right, so where you want to start, Roberts? Where you want to start? You're the champion. You get to pick.
No, I don't do all that.
Well, we're going to start with the double.
I'm a man of the people.
Let's
Well,
talk about his weaknesses. Where did
Okay.
he kind of have some points that he could put into the lineup to make a difference?
Jacobs.
yeah,
was a
Jacobs.
disappointment.
Yeah, Jacobs against Miami. He had
Can I-
69 rushing yards. That's it.
Can I ask a question and maybe y'all would be able to answer it? I feel like Jacobs, even
Always.
last year, did he not miss the playoffs? Like fantasy playoffs?
Josh
Like,
Jacobs?
Yeah, he played 14 games.
Yeah.
last year.
And he missed the
He
final.
missed 15 through 17 or something like
Yeah,
that. Or
and,
four,
and
no,
it was an
16,
ankle
17.
injury, right?
He just
His-
had
Well,
a mirage. Look, it's a
So you're
bunch
saying
of
he can't handle
Russian
pressure?
was open kind of after the top 3 this year. Like there was a lot of people that kind of like fluctuated
Jockeyed.
between the 4th and 5th. And I think at one point he was top 10 in rushing yards. Not a lot of touchdowns to kind of go with some of those numbers. But, he is a little bit of a disappointment, in my opinion, this year. I think all of us at the table were pretty high on Jacobs going into the draft.
There were 2 players on Birch's team that were great for the majority of the season and then kind of became up and down. And that was Tyler Lockett and Jacobs.
So I think Lockett was one that it was all dependent on who did Russell go to that day. It's like he had some huge games where he had 50 and then like 30s, and then there was like he put up 5 and 6 a lot of weeks too. Then that's
when their running game was going and the defenses didn't rush the passer much, and he had time, he was throwing to Lockett a lot more.
Right.
As soon as Carson got hurt, Carlos Hyde got hurt, and they just started pinning their ears back and just rushing him quite a bit. It was like, hey,
5 interceptions.
let me try to find that 6'5" guy.
Yeah,
It's really fast.
Yeah, and they couldn't let Lockett develop down the field as much. I feel like he really got hurt on it.
Going back to Jacobs real quick. So going into week 17, Josh Jacobs is 6th in rushing yards. He would presumably he's probably going to end up either 5th or 6th.
Well, Cook's not playing.
Cook's not playing, but he's at 1557.
Kamara's not.
Jacobs is at 976. Kamara is actually
He's not catching Henry, I
10.
don't think.
in
No,
rushing
there was
yards.
so many receivers.
Kamara
He's got so many. He's got 83
Probably
receptions.
first, right?
He's got 21 total touchdowns. I mean, he's been a great fantasy asset.
As far as yards, I still think Henry and Cook might be over total yards with Kamara just for those Taysom Hill games. I don't know if you can do.
I think touchdowns might be the reason why Kamara could be ahead of them in fantasy.
I was talking about yards, but yeah,
yards.
touchdowns are really
Kamara, do some math, Ryan.
Do math.
Do math, Ryan.
Quit pointing at me.
Do math, Ryan. 932 plus 756.
No, I ain't doing it.
I wasn't listening. Really not doing it.
Okay.
I'm just looking up all-purpose yards. It's a whole lot
Okay,
easier.
fine, whatever.
I got you. I got you.
Cook's at 1918. Derrick Henry's at 1891. Kamara's at 1732.
Okay.
And then it gets down to Stephon Diggs and Travis Kelce.
Man, it's pretty wild. But that's also taking into account Saquon Barkley, because we all thought he would be up there.
Mhm.
Christian McCaffrey, all thought he'd be up there. Zeke
Yeah.
thought he would be up there.
I mean, you were a Josh Jacobs guy.
Yeah.
Bold prediction.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
but yet again, it's just he just gets these little bumps and bruises and little nicks that he doesn't finish a game, or he comes out for 2 or 3 quarters, or misses a game,
Yep.
True.
and it happens almost every week.
Yeah. Let's see. Melvin Gordon. We talked about Melvin Gordon going into this matchup. Brian, you were a little worried about Melvin Gordon.
Oh yeah, it's set up to bite me in the ass. I mean,
Yeah,
that's just how it is.
It definitely was.
Every year you have that happens.
Mhm.
I tongue in cheek said the
Sports
Chargers were
story.
going to lock him down, and they kind of did.
He had 79 rushing yards. Pretty good effort, but you got to. And if he'd have scored a touchdown, this matchup's completely different.
But watching that game, they gave Royce Freeman, I think it was Royce Freeman, a lot of touches because Lindsey was out. I thought it was going to be all Melvin Gordon.
That's what I thought too.
It wasn't.
The rest of Broach's lineup right around their projection. Amari Cooper, 14. Waller 13. Hooper 10. Miami 9. He really needed Lockett or Jacobs or Melvin Gordon.
Get in the end zone.
And he didn't want him to score.
One of them score, it changes everything. For Broach, his blueprint to victory this entire year has been centered around his double up.
Yep. It's been, hey, don't get goose egged anywhere else. Just give me around 10, and we'll carry the rest of the way.
Seriously,
over here
man.
the Chiefs heads.
And we have talked about this throughout the course of the fantasy season with your double up, JT's double up, and Broach's double up, and kind of gone back and forth of who could have the possible one. That
solidified.
That conversation ended about a month and a half ago.
The season
that double up is stupid.
Yeah, because you got the number 1 quarterback in the league this year. Probably
Rodgers
going
probably
to
going
win
to
MVP.
win MVP.
And then Devontae Adams, best receiver this year.
And that ain't even.
Which we could probably talk about the fact that we were saying that Rodgers, how he fell that far in the draft. I think he went like second or third, last round.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, Ramsdale.
It wasn't even his first quarterback.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
he took Cam Newton.
Yeah, Cam Newton, a couple rounds ahead.
Yep, because me and Ramsdale had that bet.
Why were we all skittish on Rodgers?
because they
Last year,
they
he
took
didn't do all
Jordan
that.
Love for a reason, and they didn't draft a receiver. And we're like, maybe they're going to try to phase it out, go to a more
They've lost a
run-heavy
couple
team.
guys on their offensive line.
And he struggled last year without Devontae Adams.
And they're a one-dimensional team. For the most part, they were a one-dimensional team last year.
What do you mean?
They had to throw the football because their defense sucks.
Didn't Jones lead?
Aaron Jones, I think, led the league in touchdowns or something last year.
You might let them in touchdowns. Doesn't mean they were all rushing.
I think he ended up with like 900 rushing yards, like right around that.
Yeah.
The reason I think that was another thing that we talked about on draft night was the emergence of the running game and like how much more balanced they had become, that this could take away some of those touchdowns from Rodgers, who usually was like red zone throwing it all 4 downs, compared to now we got a running game and we're going to give it off to.
We didn't know if they were just phasing Rodgers out because they drafted Jordan Love in the first.
That's the way it's
first round. They traded a pick for him.
All they did was put a chip on his shoulder.
That's really what they did. And
That's
you know
exactly
what?
what they
I
did.
think
He ate it.
Can we also talk about like the running game was injured a lot this year for them as well?
yeah, they
How
let
many
Rodgers.
games did Jones miss?
4?
I mean,
I think he missed 4.
Jamal Williams.
Jamal Wilson's about 3 or 4.
Mhm.
yeah. So I
And
think
then
and the thing
AJ
was,
Dillon,
You know what the dumbest
rookie.
thing about all of it was, and it was evident last week, it's how difficult is it
Very
knowing that the defense knows who's getting the football on 90% of the plays. If all you do is focus on Adams
Mm.
and don't worry about anything else, you feel like you can win a football game because the majority of those passers are going to Adams. They're still going to Adams, and they're still getting yards or getting touchdowns. There's nothing you can do.
Same thing that happened to Alabama Notre Dame last night. Brian Kelly, coach of Notre Dame, came out and said, "We know we got to stop Smith. We know we got to stop him."
Mhm.
He had like 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, like, you know that you can stop him, but good luck trying.
It's a lesser version of Brady and Moss that one year.
I don't think it's lesser.
It is lesser.
I don't think it. I don't know.
I think Brady had more weapons other than just Moss that year, where I feel like everyone knows now.
You know exactly
Like-
what's going 17.
The other thing that I want to point out is that Lazard was the number 2, and he missed a huge chunk of the year
Yeah.
with a core injury. And so, like, now you're saying your number 2 is a guy they clearly don't believe in Valdez.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Thank you. And, like, I would have triple covered him almost. I seriously would have had linebacker jam, corner at the 5 to 10 with the safety over the top, and been like, anyone else beat me.
Well, then you had Tunyon with a couple
Couple
big games.
games,
The last
Stanley did have some.
So
He had some bombs.
He
that
did.
dropped.
Like he had.
He took the top off the defense.
I mean, we can't sleep on Equanimous St. Brown. Actually, we can. We can. We can sleep on him. His name's Equanimous.
Equanimous.
And I think that's the big thing, like, Rodgers is, like, he made defenses honor the other guys by kind of going to them in certain games and made them kind of fade off their double coverage on Adams. And when they did, he immediately threw it to Adams. Like, he would recognize quickly the defense had rotated back, and he's like, okay, now I got my guy.
And we got to look. Devontae Adams, I think, missed 5 or 6 games last year with turf toe.
Mhm.
And when he
still
was missing
ended up with 10 touchdowns.
and when he was missing games last year, Aaron Jones was punching in everything in the red zone. He scored a ton last year. And this year, if he didn't get it on that first and goal carry, we're doing play action rollout throwing to Adams.
It was a quick out, quick slant every time.
Anytime.
And it was an option route out of the middle. And
good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
All right, so Rodgers going into week 17, 44 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Is Rodgers the best quarterback in the NFL?
No.
Mahomes is still
where
the
is
best
he?
quarterback.
No,
Well,
I
he's
think
number
he's
2.
had the best season.
I think he's had the best season.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that. I think, look, you know my opinion. I
I
think Mahomes is the best.
We talked
quarterback
about
I've
this a
ever
couple weeks ago. I said, Aaron Rodgers is the most talented quarterback physically that I've ever seen until Mahomes.
seen. I agree, 100%.
But I don't think Aaron Rodgers has fallen off like everybody is, like, completely falling off a cliff. He had a couple down seasons for sure,
Yeah.
but he's still got
But
it.
you know, those are down seasons for Rodgers.
but
they're
for
still very
for
good.
anybody
A lot of
else,
quarterbacks
still
are
getting
getting
good.
good. They're getting better.
Yeah.
Do you know what else kind of like amazes me about Rodgers this season compared to seasons past is his progression is like, don't take unnecessary hits, don't hold on to the ball too long. Like, I feel like in years past, like I brought it up that I thought Rodgers had kind of started doing the Big Ben thing, holding on to it, taking unnecessary hits on his shoulders and getting a couple injuries over the last few years. I feel like it should be a credit to Rodgers and his, ability to change the way he plays to best suit the game.
Mhm.
But I really don't know if Rodgers taking big hits this year. And again, I
He
didn't
didn't take
watch all
many.
the Green Bay games, but like he got rid of the ball quick, or if it wasn't there, he checked it down quick to a
Him
running
and
back.
LaFleur were on the same page.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
last year, it looked like that's the second year LaFleur was there.
Yeah.
They didn't feel like they were on the same page and
Moving
was getting
forward,
frustrated. But
it's
they
all
were,
the ceiling.
All right, so is
No,
Rodgers number 2?
Number 2.
12.
12, yeah.
Is he
Yeah.
number 2 QB?
Yeah.
fantasy wise or
In
in
real
real
life,
football.
I think he's the second best quarterback in the NFL.
Would you? I'd like to hear other.
Going into this year, I said Russell Wilson. I think I'm backing off of that, and I might say Rodgers.
See,
I think Rodgers is better than Wilson.
yeah.
independent of system, I would put Wilson up there. But in Seattle's offense, I don't know if I'd put him up there. But then still, physically gifted, it's still Mahomes and Rodgers.
Yeah.
Because I think they make their systems better.
I think Russell has a great deep ball, but I think sometimes he tries to hit the big play too often. He doesn't make as good of reads, in my opinion, as Rodgers. But I think that goes to what Ryan said, his understanding of the offense and him and the head coach and OC all being on the same page together. Rodgers, I think, is the second best quarterback in the league.
But I still think next year,
Do you
2
think-
through 7 and all that, I think it could change.
How much does this hurt his drafts? Or no, excuse me. How much does this improve his draft status going into next year? What quarterback
Honestly,
would he be
I don't
taking?
think that much.
He's
I think
he's not going to go in the 15th
He's not
round.
going
or
to
whatever
15th
he
round.
Well, does Andrew let him get past the 5th round?
Or the
Yes.
first round, like you used to
Yes.
draft him.
You think he gets past the 5th round next year?
All right, so
I think he'll go right in that Deshaun Watson, Kyler Murray range that
'Cause
everybody's
what
taking him in
happens
there.
is right now everything's fresh on our minds, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about this room, I'm talking about outside this room.
Mhm.
When everybody starts doing their research, and there's always those couple of guys. Well, Aaron Rodgers did all this last year, but because of his age, it's the first thing that comes up.
yeah, that's
And
true.
They'll find something that he lacked in this year. It's going to be hard.
What
They'll
if Green
find
Bay
something.
adds a legit receiver? Because if you look at all the mocks, there's not a receiver going in the top 15, really. Like, I mean, I see Chase.
Smith and Chase.
Those two go. So you're now saying maybe the third or fourth receiver now could fall to Green Bay, and you're adding a weapon to a team that was the biggest need to them last year, was adding that.
It's basically like Kansas City getting Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the 32nd pick. Like, they didn't need him, but it just makes their offense go.
Or Jefferson being added to Minnesota and how
Mhm.
explosive he's been in that offense this year. You add a guy like that to Rodgers, and he will have one-on-one matchup because of how many defenses are going to be shaded.
Don't
to
be
him.
surprised if they draft a wide receiver early.
That's what I think.
Because where they're drafting, there's not many wide receivers going. You got 2 that's going in the top 15.
That's good. That's good analysis.
That's what we were just talking about, Brian.
I know. I keep.
All right.
But I mean, they could. They were talking about trying to trade for Will Fuller right at the
Yeah, that's
deadline.
true. They were talking about that a
they didn't
lot.
want to give up.
And
I
Will
don't
Fuller
think
probably
about
does.
But they were like,
I don't think they
wanting
will
a first-
now.
They
They
were wanting
talked
a
about it.
first round pick, and I'm like, God, that dude gets hurt every single year.
And
Like,
then he
I
just
do think
Adderalls
he's a difference maker, but golly,
Yeah, I definitely.
I don't
he's
know if I
definitely
want a guy that injury prone to give up a first rounder.
true.
After seeing how many legit receivers just came out of this past draft, and there's some good prospects coming in, like I'd just rather wait and take.
I'd much rather trade DeAndre Hopkins
Don't
with David
do it to
Johnson.
Deshaun.
Yeah.
They've already screwed up Watson enough.
Yeah, I agree.
Give
Well,
them something.
how,
Throw them a bone.
do you think there's a chance Watson tries to get out?
He just signed like a 5-year deal, I think,
Yeah.
last
I don't
year.
know.
he
Yeah.
did, 'cause
You
that's
don't think
the
there's
whole
some
back
teams
thing.
that sit there and say, "Hey, we didn't get the Lawrence"?
But
or
Deshaun's very good.
Yeah.
People are just forcing him to be better than what he is. I think if the new GM, if they buy in and actually include him in some of the decision making,
They need
See, I don't like
they
that.
need a running back.
I don't like that at
They
all.
need a team.
They need a lot.
They should have traded Watt.
They need a
But
coach
the way
in the
they
front
traded
office. They don't have either
Hopkins
one
all
right
But
now.
What would
nobody
you
was
give
going to
up for
give
him?
up a lot for Watt.
No, well, they would have given up a lot for Hopkins, and they didn't have to. So what makes you think they would give up a lot for Watt?
I don't
anyway?
think Watts. I think Watts too
Why?
much the locker room leader for
Yeah.
them to do.
Yeah,
He
What
is
would you have got?
He's the
Fifth
face of
rounder?
Houston.
Yeah, he is the face of it.
But you got to have a team for him to lead.
Well,
I mean, last year they made the playoffs, and then they
Then they
just
got rid
and
of
then
everybody.
Bill O'Brien just hit self-destruct. He
There was a
hit the
conversation.
red button.
We had a conversation at a restaurant one night. And the guy said, "Do you remember that year David Johnson had that one time?"
well, he
That
also
was
traded
amazing.
away all his
I
first
know.
round picks. Like,
Yeah.
you look at it
It's hard
like
to build a
Miami
brand.
having that pick for Tunsil, right?
Mhm.
And I'm sitting there like, wow, what a trade by Miami to trade Tunsil, a pothead, decent left tackle. I wouldn't say
He's very good.
very good, but now you get a top 3 pick out of it.
Yeah.
Possibly
and
get
it's
the
third.
best. Possibly
And you,
get the best lineman in the draft.
you wouldn't have needed to trade for Tunsil if, like, 2 years before that, you wouldn't have traded Dwayne Brown, your stud left tackle, to Seattle.
What'd they get
But
that trade?
I don't even remember.
I don't either.
I'm gonna tell you what. It wouldn't surprise me if they trade this pick for 2 futures. Wouldn't surprise me. Miami.
Miami. If I just got
I'm all
Tua
over the
and
place.
knew his injury history, I'd protect him as much as humanly possible.
I agree. But if he's gone, Penny, If he's gone before they draft,
I think both of the teams ahead will take a quarterback.
I don't know.
Jets and
Jets and Jags.
I don't know.
I think we're talking about trading quarterbacks or trading what. It's a lot harder to trade big contracts in the NFL than it is any other sport because the dead cap, even if you trade the contract, it's still on your books. So like people talking about, we can trade these basketball contracts. Well, you're not getting dead cap because you have to make the salaries match in the trades. Whereas the NFL, they're talking about trading Carson Wentz. Like, it's going to be a $30 million dead cap even if they trade him.
So you can't expect a huge salary salary cap increase this year.
I think it's supposed to be flat or almost flat.
Yeah.
Which they've been going up for 10 or 12 million every year for like last decade.
The Jets and Oakland or Vegas can still afford probably whatever they want.
Probably so.
So where does kind of going all the way back to this huge thing is where does Rodgers go with next year's draft amongst quarterbacks? Like, do you think he's a top 5 quarterback?
Oh yeah, like I said, I think he's in that conversation with Deshaun and Kyler Murray,
3rd, 4th.
So,
like, I have him clearly ahead of Watson just because of Watson's limited weapons.
Watson will be the leader of when all the quarterbacks start going.
Watson was only 11 points behind
Rodgers. That surprises me.
Watson getting 50 yards or so a game rushing helps his floor so much.
Carolina should trade for Watson. Watson for Bridgewater straight up.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's probably going to be Mahomes.
They just don't have any first-round picks.
Jackson's probably still going to go number 2, even though I wouldn't ever take him there.
I think Kyler could maybe go.
But it's probably going to be.
Dak will be back up there.
I don't know how that.
I'd be patient on him to see.
I would like to have Dak next year.
Yeah, for sure.
I would like to have him.
Especially when he's playing quarterback for another team.
We're not a quarterback league.
Line comes back.
We're just not.
But he's not
everybody gets their eyes set. I want this guy, and I know I can get him later. And if they're expecting the 2 to go, I think probably maybe 3 now. Lamar and Pat will go early.
Pat, Lamar,
and then
Murray.
If you get 4
4
to go earlier than you think they should, I think you'll start getting some reaches. Dak will
and then maybe Russell, Rodgers, kind of in that next tier.
Josh Allen.
Yeah, with his rushing.
I don't think he does. I think Josh Allen would be late.
I take
no.
I take Josh Allen in the top 9.
We've seen rushing quarterbacks, like we just talked about before the podcast started, who were the top 3 fantasy quarterbacks. It was Murray was 1, Allen was 2, Mahomes was 3.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the best passer out of those 3?
Mahomes.
Obviously Mahomes, but the other 2 just score so many rushing touchdowns and have rushing yards that it equals out.
Yeah,
well, Josh Allen is a passer.
It's the rushing
better every year.
And that's the thing where Rodgers used to be that way. Like, he's still going to be close to the league lead in touchdown passes and passing yards. But he'd be like just sneaky 4 or 5 rushing touchdowns a season.
If you get Rodgers within 10 yards, he'll run it in, no problem.
Okay.
10 yards a down total.
Yeah, I mean, like,
runs it in, no problem.
Because you have to worry so much about everything else that he can do.
They don't ever press him.
It's like that. You're not spying.
It was like that naked bootleg that Peyton Manning ran at one time.
Start.
God,
Let's move on. Move on.
That was
move
on.
That was against Dallas, and he was just.
You're not a Dallas fan anymore.
He was at the time.
I mean,
it's not even.
That was for the Broncos. I hate the Broncos. I just thought it was funny that it happened.
It's not even that I'm a Dallas fan. It's just like, how many years can you watch a team be mishandled over and over again before you finally just say, you know what? I can't no more. And that's what it was.
I'm still
war of attrition. Jerry Jones versus me. It was a war of attrition. He won.
I'm holding strong over here in SoCal, buddy.
Chargers and Hornets.
He won, but at what cost?
At what cost?
Well, now you're a Panthers fan. Welcome.
Yeah, this sucks too.
Hey, JT, let them all go.
I had a chance to jump ship when San Diego moved to LA for the Chargers. People aren't going to be mad if you switch teams. I said, no, I've suffered enough. I'm just going to stay.
Well, I've done it with Phoenix, man. And honestly, that doesn't bother me as much.
Yeah.
But every year, when it's supposed to be the year, and you end up 8-8, because we bring in guys that shouldn't be on the team, like Greg Hardy,
Randy
people
Gregory.
like that. Yes, God.
Hey, it's the locker room cancer guy. Like, that's what they did. They killed the locker room.
Right, and dude.
Oh, he's just a locker room guy.
Because they always had the talent. They had the talent.
Yeah.
But they. All right,
it's just
you gonna get me.
It's an assembly. It's the assembly of parts, but they don't fit together.
And then Romo retiring, that was just like, you know what?
Final
It's time.
straw.
It's time.
Okay.
It's time.
Okay.
It's time.
And Christian McCaffrey, because that happened at the same time. Romo retired. McCaffrey came into
So
the
you're
league.
saying you were a camel's back, and Romo's retirement was the last straw?
It was, dude. It was. It really was.
With arms wide open, it's got JT written all over it.
It really was.
Oh,
Romo's
don't
retirement.
bring
was
up Creed in front of me and not expect me to get
Right,
excited.
Meyer. We hear you out there, big guy.
Right, Meyer Creed guy?
Yeah, loves it. He plays every day in the weight room at the middle school. Loves Creed.
Well, looks like I found me a workout partner. I mean,
That's
well,
what you've been waiting on. Just somebody play
They-
Creed.
they have-
well, I'm just going to do it over Zoom. I'm going to be sitting on my couch, but, whatever.
The fire alarm went off the other day, and the gym doors open. All I could hear was just Creed blaring all the way over at the hospital.
Hold me now. I'm 6 feet from the
Okay,
edge.
all right. Okay.
And let's jump to Brian's team. So Brian,
But no,
look at
social distancing, maybe 6 feet. That's what they were going with. Scott steps and
your double up.
My sucked.
Let's
It
talk
did
about
not.
that. I mean, like, seriously, if you had told me, without looking at anything else on the teams, that Adams went for 37.7 and Rogers 26.14, and then Brian's double up went for 16.38 and Hop 8.8, I'm like, well, Roach is going to absolutely mutilate Brian.
And
Like-
Brian had a running back that got less than 3 points.
And a running back, they got less than 3 points. I would have just been like, yeah. I
Good
don't-
season, bud.
Good season.
That's the
Like,
most
if I was going to
conflicting
get-
thing, man.
If I was-
Robinson's going to play. Don't worry about it. They're just going to sit him this week. That made me feel a little bit better. Robinson gets interviewed. I told Coach not to sit. I'm playing this week.
Yeah.
So I stopped worrying about it. Saturday at about 5:30, Ian Rappaport puts out a tweet that says, "No James Robinson tomorrow." And I'm like, son of a bitch. What am I going to do?
Agumbawale!
So I went and I looked at so many runs. I went so far down that list. There's
How far
guys
down?
I know of now that I didn't know were in the league. And then I picked up the long last name fella for Jacksonville.
Agumbawale!
Yeah, that
The
fella.
long last name.
He used to play for Cleveland.
And he's going against Chicago. And I can't start this guy against Chicago.
Chicago is a mystery as a defense. Some weeks they're in
Some
trouble.
weeks they look good,
others
some weeks they look like
They're giving
trash.
up points.
As Akeem Hicks played, basically is what I went for in running backs.
Is whoever playing quarterback turning the ball over.
Right.
Trubisky
Trubisky in the second half of the season's been a baller.
He's trying to
I
keep
trade
his
for him.
job.
Give him an
I trade for
extension.
him.
You trade for him?
Yeah, he's better in Bridgewater.
I started Trubisky in a fantasy playoff game 2 years ago. That did
Look
not
at
work out well for me.
I'm telling you right now, Trubisky's second half of the season has been better than Bridgewater by a lot.
Yeah.
So the Bridgewater signing was
It's the locker room. I mean, I do think he brings the team together, and a lot of dudes like him. Like, I think that was something he was known for in Minnesota and New Orleans. Was a good guy in that sense. I think we've always talked about at the table, like
I see what you're doing.
they should have tanked.
I see what he's doing. He's trying to get Charlotte or Carolina to get the number 1 draft pick. That's why he brings Trubisky in. I like it. I like what you're thinking.
Bridgewater's a stabilizing force on a
Yeah,
team. He's not going to win you
He's not
12 or
gonna win,
13
no.
games, but he's going to keep you between
Yeah, that's what
7 and 10 or
that's
11.
what Trubisky would do too. He'd still come in and win you 7 or 8 games. Well, I think Carolina's players around him are on par
Mitchell.
with what Chicago has, and he's won 3 or 4 games in a row since he's come
Trubisky's
back.
not better than Bridgewater.
Actually, I think Trubisky's only lost like 1 or 2 games this year.
Because he's only started.
Trubisky was 3-0, and they benched him.
he was 3-0 when he got benched, Brian.
And I think they've been like 4-2 since he came back or something like that. So I mean, he's played well.
So I mean, we're saying he's 7-2 as a starter this season.
He's basically what Jake Locker or Vince Young used to be for the Titans. Like, they don't look great on the
Yeah,
field,
I don't know
but they're,
how,
but they're
like-
winning games.
We're sitting here like I'm saying like he's like a top 10 quarterback. No, I don't think that at all. But I think he has been a good quarterback since he's come back, and he's put up better stats than Bridgewater.
With Montgomery
Pretty
breaking
easy.
out, Trubisky has looked better in that offense because they're not relying solely on him.
you also have to think, what would Bridgewater and Carolina look like if McCaffrey had played 16 games? Because that's the best running back in the NFL.
They built the entire team around
right.
him.
And so now Bridgewater's coming in, to a system that's built for McCaffrey.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Mike Davis didn't do well, but he's not Christian.
Tannehill has looked really good for Tennessee the past
Yeah,
year and a half. What would happen if Derrick Henry wasn't there and they're running Jeremy McNichols or whatever that dude's name is?
I guess that's the thing that makes me think.
So
I'm not
what
saying Trubisky's not. I think Trubisky's okay. I think he's kind of gotten kind of a raw deal.
It's not his fault that the team drafted him over Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. That's not his fault.
That was the Bears' fault.
Yeah, he did the best he could, but
so
that's just
stupid.
he's got unnecessary and lofty expectations put on him because of where he was drafted.
He
But
does.
it's not his fault that
But
a
it's-
generational type player and then maybe the best player that's ever played the position got drafted behind him.
But the crazy thing is, and I remember it was like
I remember.
they talked about him coming out, his skill sets and his 1 year and the potential. Like
Yeah.
a lot of teams were talking about trading up to take Trubisky. That he was the number one quarterback on it. Like we laugh about it now, but guys, Greg Odom was taken before a lot of other people.
Didn't Chicago
It worked.
trade up from 3?
Don't compare Greg
To
Oden's
2.
college career to Trubisky.
Let's go with the dude from UNLV,
Anthony Bennett.
Anthony Bennett. I mean, guys, like there's buzz that happen at the top ends of drafts.
Oh, I agree.
Jamarcus Russell, for another instance, like they like the tangibles that people have, but they don't translate to the NFL.
Trubisky got drafted like an NBA player. Like, hey, potential.
Yeah.
Because he only started 1 year. And he
The
still
year he
has that
started,
same
he
potential,
lived
but
up.
it's just he hasn't grown really much. He is what he was when he got drafted.
And sometimes I even like pointing at like, what about a Tannehill, man? Like he did
Oh,
not do good in Miami. Like they
Yeah.
gave up on him.
I think that
He
was
did good,
the,
but
I
he
think
did
he
good
was
as
the
hell.
only thing they had, really.
He did good in Miami, and then Adam Gase showed up.
That's a good
Yeah.
point.
Because, I mean, they went like
I guess
9-7,
they did,
I think.
yeah, because they
in
did have
Miami.
some weapons. They did have some weapons like Jarvis Landry, Mike Wallace,
Yeah, I mean, they were fine.
They tried
Mark
to build a team
Miller.
for him.
They had a decent team. They didn't have the defense.
He was growing as a quarterback. Adam Gase got there. It completely
Yeah.
went downhill as soon as he went to Tennessee and Adam Gase went to the Jets.
Man,
came
Adam
right back
Gase
up.
is terrible.
See, I don't think he'll get another starting job anywhere else. Like if he's going to start, and Chicago would have to try to roll the dice and keep him. It's one of those where I wonder what he could do outside of Chicago, where a city that clearly doesn't like him or support him and stuff like that. If it could be like a Tannehill situation where he goes somewhere else, has a fresh start,
New
clears his mind,
Sent him
and
to New England.
maybe. I mean, like it'd be interesting for me to see. Is he ever going to top the ones that were drafted after him? No,
No.
hell no, not even close.
But yet again, that's still
But
not his fault.
that's not what I'm talking. I just would like to see him in another system, and I think he could be a feasible quarterback on a team that's not built for slinging it, but
Built for speed or built for comfort?
well, I mean, like what you just said, a run first kind of team where he's a manager and can win some games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how we got on Trubisky.
Well, speaking of Tannehill in Miami, Brian, you had 2 Miami players starting this past week. Larry Bowden Jr.
Lynn.
and Lynn. Is Lynn?
I think it's Lynn.
I don't know. Dude, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't know the dudes. I didn't know anything about him.
He's a
until 2
wide
weeks
receiver.
ago.
He's a wide receiver.
Yeah, and then Gesicki. You
Oh,
started
Gesicki. That's right, Gesicki.
and you're beating yourself up about starting Gesicki
Now,
after that Irv
Still
Smith
am.
game.
Still am.
because I told him that Gesicki was going to score 2 touchdowns guaranteed.
You did say that.
I should have just said your tight end's going to score 2 touchdowns guaranteed and not put a name on it, but I got to have a better chance.
Yeah, Irv Smith Jr. without Kyle Rudolph.
Irv Smith Jr. was really good at Alabama. They just didn't throw to him a lot because they've got so
They
many
got
wide
12
receivers.
different weapons.
Okay. Brian, it really came down to 2 players for you that kind of carried the load, and it's not 2 players that I think that you're
Well,
expecting to carry the
If
load.
you were playing Brian in the championship and you said, hey, his 2 highest scores are going to be Wilson and Crowder, you're going to be like, yeah, I feel pretty good about winning then.
Yeah.
Not knowing that those 2 were going to go for over a combined, what?
If Jamison
56.
Crowder doesn't throw that touchdown,
I lose.
you lose.
Yeah.
You-
If you said, hey,
My wide receiver threw more touchdown passes than my quarterback.
yeah, he did.
Kyler Murray and D-Hop had a bad game. Brian, you had 2 players keep pace with Rodgers and Adams. Who were they? Oh, Jeffrey Wilson Jr. and Jamison Crowder.
Can you read Crowder's stat line that shows up real quick?
Yeah. Let's click on this. Golly.
How many receptions did he have, JT?
Nah, he had 7 catches.
7 catches? Okay. Why is this not pulling up?
All right, I'll get you.
Yeah, get it.
43 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown. 1 rush attempt for 14 yards. 9 targets turned into 7 receptions for 92 yards and a touchdown.
Jamison Crowder has been in and out of your lineup all year.
Yeah.
He's healthy.
Weren't you talking about putting Robbie Anderson in?
Oh,
One
Crowder?
time?
Yeah.
Would have lost, even though he had a good game, had 13,
Oh, yeah.
9. or
It
something.
wouldn't have done it. It wouldn't have done it.
Nope.
The only change that Brian could have made and still won basically was
Hot for Anderson.
Yeah,
Hop for
but
Anderson
you
and
beat
Irv Smith for Gesicki, and you wouldn't even have to
Or
worry about it.
Ridley and Anderson.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
the only one he legitimately would have made would have been
When I had to start
Agumbawale over Lynn Bowden or Gesicki.
when I had to start making changes because my team kept, facing death, Crowder was always a guy that I looked at, is he worth dropping? And when I dropped Gordon, it was between Gordon and Crowder. So I think it worked out.
You picked the right one
I
to
picked the
drop.
right one.
You picked the right one to drop.
That system tried to get him again. He said, no. I'm going to keep my Duke boy.
Yep.
Worked out.
The rest of your lineup, Chris Godwin, did what he was supposed to do, 16.9. Washington's defense, in a loss to Carolina, still had you 14 points, but you're right. It came down to the dark horses, Jeffrey Wilson Jr.,
Really glad Carolina
Jamison Crowder.
Ooh, yeah. Carolina owned that game.
Yeah, I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, it was.
Well, they have a couple late sacks and a pick, basically, in the fourth quarter.
I started
think they helped the
Washington
defense out.
when who was it I found out was going to be African?
McCaffrey again?
No.
'Cause each
Yeah,
week
it
there's
was it was McCaffrey.
Each week there's a hope for McCaffrey for Brian, and then it's just ripped away from him.
Dude, you want to talk about
I ain't
a
never had my
weird
heart broken so
season?
much.
And then Indy's defense has been one of the best defenses in football. Pittsburgh has looked terrible the last couple of weeks. And you're like, oh, well, maybe it's start Indianapolis. And then they got destroyed in the
And I feel
second half.
bad for Brian, too, because he
We only won
I'm
four.
looking
Don't feel
for
bad for him.
Okay.
But the pure excitement on his face when Michael did not pick McCaffrey, and he was just so full of joy. And the
Not as
fact
much
that,
joy as that SOB sitting right there. He ran right up to me, beat the shit out of me.
He did.
I was happy.
I know you were.
I
Oh yeah, he wasn't there, but he was good.
was having a good time.
He stood there and he looked. And he said, Michael takes Barkley #1, and he runs right over to him and starts, you got him. He's on your team.
Well, because we were talking about that,
yeah.
and you
Oh,
were
yeah.
like, I think he's going to take Barkley. I'm like, nah, man, he's going to take McCaffrey.
Jordan kept saying, Michael's not going to take a Panther player.
Yeah,
he's
he-
not going
I
to take
didn't
McCaffrey.
believe
that.
And we're like, well, yeah, we obviously think he doesn't. But there's a difference between taking a Panther in the third, fourth round, or if you get #1 overall pick and you don't take the obvious #1 overall pick.
But it really didn't matter at the end of the season because, McCaffrey played,
He played 3.5
three
games.
games?
Oh yeah, I got
1.5
points more available to me.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
Well, no, he played 3.5 games, and he averaged about 30.
He averaged like 30
but
points.
Barkley played 2, right?
Barkley
Got
played
hurt.
a game
Yeah,
and a
he
half.
played.
And the
Yeah,
first game he
so you
played
beat him by 2
was
games?
6 yards.
Yeah, I was about to say, first game he played was against Pittsburgh, and I think he had 6 rushing yards.
Talk about a weird season. Brian,
We have been.
you found a way to do it.
I don't know how.
131.94 Broach, 138.6 Brian Roberts.
And it literally came down to the last drive of that Sunday night game.
Came
too.
down to the wire.
Oh, dude,
Good.
I'm up. What, 56, 57 points?
Yeah, you were up like 60, because I think they put up 53.
Yeah, they put up
And-
53.
No, 63.
I'm driving home.
Yeah,
I'm driving home and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I shouldn't be this concerned about 2 guys. And then
Rogers' name ain't Chris.
Rogers and Adams. And you have to be that concerned.
We talked about it on the pod. Like, hey, how bad is it going to be with you having like a 60 or 70 point lead going into Sunday night knowing those are the 2 guys you're going against?
in
Oh,
the
it's gonna
snow,
suck.
in Green
We
Bay.
talked about who are you most fearing playing in the snow. I said, Sean McCoy on the ground, Aaron Rodgers through the air, with Tom Brady being an honorable mention, and Aaron Rodgers and Devontae. It didn't look like Devontae was playing in the snow, but everybody else looked like they were playing in the snow.
I think it definitely helps, shiftier players.
Well, it helps the offensive player because they know where they're going,
Yeah,
whereas the defensive players reacting to it. But Devontae is a big guy, he's a fast guy, and he's shifty. But every time he took a step, he had confidence in his cuts that he wasn't going to slip.
Yeah.
Whereas the defenders were like, "I'm going to play 9 yards
Right,
off
and
Devontae,
then
so it'll fall."
just
And then just quick out, and he gets 40 yards. Like, what in the world is going on? And then they're like, "Oh, you know what we'll do? I'm going to play right up on him. Going to play press coverage."
Yeah.
One step, and he's already around. I'm like, that didn't work either.
What are we gonna do?
First round, they go against Josh Allen and Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Second round, I go against Lamar Jackson and Stephon Diggs.
Yep.
In the third round, I go against Aaron Rodgers and Vontae Adams.
You know what the common denominator of that is?
You went against.
You know what the common result of all those was?
You won those.
What was it running?
All right, so let's take a look at the standings real quick.
Oh, who won the
Third place? Yeah. Jordan ended up putting 140 up against Baba Booey. Let's see. Let me take a quick look at that. Honestly, if you're not first, you last.
Yeah, no money.
But
no awards.
we can still take a look at it.
But I mean, we do need to remember what the standings ended up being, so we can remember the draft order.
True.
All right, I'm gonna screenshot it when we get it.
Screenshot it.
Stephon Diggs had a huge game, three touchdowns. Lamar Jackson, he 21 points.
Lamar's
Gronk had
better.
2 touchdowns. Gronk how many touchdowns did Gronk end up with this
I don't know.
year?
Brady went.
8?
That's the game Brady went off,
Maybe
right?
7 or 8, I'd say.
Yeah.
Over 6 touchdowns or something. What are you neighbors doing? Starting a chainsaw?
Yeah.
No, I think some dude behind Jake's talking crap. I don't know what's going on.
Well, yeah, they blew out Detroit 47-7.
Yeah,
Blew it out.
They Patriots blew them out. It was over, and they still.
they curb stomped him.
I played
Put on third.
one of Michael's leagues,
Yeah.
and I was in the championship. And
Win?
I had Matt Stafford.
Uh-huh.
I had Marvin.
I think he would have
Jones.
led with that if he won.
Tyreek Hill had his worst game of the year. Derrick Henry didn't do much.
Right.
It was not good. I scored 75.
There was no way.
I led the whole league the whole year in points, and it
At a right mark.
just fell apart. So he ended up with 7 touchdowns. I thought he had more.
I thought it was 7 or 8 because he didn't.
He didn't have a
I don't know if he
touchdown
had-
until week 6.
I was about to say first few games it was 2 catches, 1 catch, 3 catches.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew left some points on his bench.
Well, he also didn't start anybody in Keenan Allen's place. So
You can't. That's a respect thing.
That's a respect thing.
Yeah.
He also, started Ahmed.
Yet again, if you're not
locked after we lose.
Not only if
you're
you don't make the playoffs.
Oh.
The teams that are locked are the people that don't make the playoffs. But yeah, you can do add and drops.
Yeah, because he could have golly.
Which I didn't understand. I think Reitmeyer and somebody else did an add and drop yesterday. We don't have a week 17. I don't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Really?
That's funny. Yeah, dude, he had
Many
golly,
consistency.
he had 4 players with over 23 points.
All right, so
I think I had talked to him, and I think
No,
at
it
one
wasn't.
point
It
he
was
did
on the
think that
26th.
once you lost, your team was locked, so you couldn't drop for someone else. Like when you dropped Tom Brady or something like that one year.
Mm.
I really think that because I had talked to him earlier this week, and he had said something like that.
Well, he had 24 more points on his bench than in the starting lineup.
That's stupid.
Oh dear.
Yeah, he had 129 on the bench.
It's shed building time, man. Time for third place.
That shit is still not built.
You ain't lying. All right, so let's take a look at the standings real quick. A little league recap. We'll also look at the draft day projections. So the standings, final standings, we got Big Robin first, our champion, who came in with a regular season record of 6-7, found a way to get it done in the playoffs. So that takes your overall record to 9-7.
Yeah.
Broach in second at 9-4, finished 11-5. Jordan's football team, that would be what, another 11-5 in third place. Baba Booey, at 9-7. No, 8-7. Reitmeyer,
No, he had 2 losses in the playoffs. Andrew did.
yeah,
Lost
8
the first round
8
and the third round.
Reitmeyer in fifth, who was 10-6.
10-6.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it came down to whoever. If Reitmeyer would have beat you in the first week of the playoffs, it'd have been Reitmeyer we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that really was the biggest game of the playoffs. It happened to come in the first.
Y'all did call that.
Yeah. Wasn't me.
I said y'all.
Yeah. Okay.
The Fantasy Phenoms at 6,
9-7.
9-7. Turd Sandwiches at 7-9. 08 Lions at, I guess,
Probably 6.
6 and
10.
10.
3 rounds playoffs.
And then me and Score bringing up the
16
rear.
weeks.
6 and 7. I think he lost all 3. He's been adding playoff games.
Even the ones that didn't play.
Huh?
You didn't make it out the first round.
But you still
But he
have
plays 3
consolation
weeks
He
games.
played consolation games, so he
Yeah.
played.
Oh, do you?
He
Yeah,
played.
yeah, yeah.
He
I
played
know
in the
that.
7th
Yeah,
place
I
game.
thought it was done. It was done.
No, you play consolation. The only ones that are done are me and Scorp. Me and Scorp have 3 less games than everybody else because we didn't make the playoffs.
Right.
So I end up at 4-9. Scorp at 2-11. Our highest point total for the year was Reitmeyer, followed by Brian, and then Broach. Another interesting thing about these standings, real quick. Jordan made 71 moves.
Yep.
Who was second? 50.
Second was 50, which was Reitmeyer. And then the least amount of moves was Roach at 27.
Every year he's the least. He always has the most, like,
You know why?
he always ends up with the most
He
fat.
trusts his manager.
He does trust his manager.
He trusts his manager.
Trust his
I
manager.
need a co-owner. No, I've already got team. I'm saying I was thinking about one.
You got anybody in mind?
Who? George?
Tank and tummy guy.
Tank and Tummy guy, yeah.
I
George
would-
Badgley?
I would quit this
You
league.
think Tank and Tummy guy still works at Tank and Tummy?
No, he don't.
No, because Tank and tummy doesn't exist anymore. It's a
Andy
different place.
Hugo's.
There you go.
There we go. Or maybe you think, did he go down to Getting By? Is he working for the competitors?
That's possible.
Insider trading going on.
Yeah.
Down there, that's it.
All right, so how about some fantasy football awards to end the season?
I can
I
tell
think
you
we
who
do.
doesn't go back to BP. We'll handle it.
Alexa, you stay in the living room. We got this.
Oh boy, that Andrew spoke to. Ain't seen him since.
What do you mean? Big Cup?
Outside in the parking lot. Talking about the economy.
Let's not bring that up right now.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We're not going to bring it up.
Oh, you don't?
I
I'll
don't
tell you
think
after.
I did.
Different
All right.
fella.
All right, so we've got 3 managerial awards.
Given out to members of our league.
Give it out to members. Managerial, is that the right?
Yeah, that's a good word.
Owner awards.
Oh,
We don't say that anymore.
okay.
Team
Oh,
manager.
good God.
2021.
Good God, they're owner awards.
We also have 5 player awards. And so we've only discussed these very briefly. We haven't come up with
Don't
any.
even remember what they are.
We haven't came up with anything like succinct. So there's a little bit of
All
debate.
smells beautiful.
Succinct.
It's the kitchen.
What's that word?
There's also
meaning
one in
for
the
you?
bathroom.
All right,
Is that
so
3? Is that 3?
Succinct means you just say something in the least amount of words as possible.
You use it when you watch the dishes.
that's what I meant.
Okay.
And afterwards,
It
you
makes
go
sense.
to the Bobby
when I said it in my
Singles.
mind.
All right. We're going with
All right, so our first award is going to go to the best team of the fantasy football season. All right.
regardless of record.
Regardless of
Finish.
record, who is the best team? And there's different ways, I guess, you can go about that. You could look at it in terms of points. You can look at it in terms of just like
So Steve
Who
Reitmeyer.
did you not want to play?
Who'd you fear more
Like,
than
who
anybody
were
else?
you like this
So
team?
Steven Reitmeyer.
it's
It's
for me,
right.
it's right.
It's right.
It's not even.
It's
Without a
Reitmeyer.
doubt.
It's not close.
If Brian had been healthy, I would make a good argument.
Is
True.
this team the most powerful team ever?
Reitmeyer's team?
Yeah.
So, all right. So here's what Reitmeyer's team ends up looking like. So Josh Allen,
Mhm.
Tyreek Hill,
Second quarterback, Tyreek Hill amongst receivers,
He's
top
second.
three.
Probably second
second,
behind
second.
Adams.
second or third.
I had him top 3. for sure.
Stephon Diggs might have passed him.
Yeah.
Mike Evans.
A lot of
Ain't no
touchdowns.
touchdown.
Well, up and down.
Considering that's my
A lot
wide
of
receiver
touchdowns.
too, I
Receiving
would really be
touchdowns,
happy.
he's probably up there.
Brandon Ayuk, who is his number 3 receiver, and Brandon
Solid.
Ayuk was good.
Solid.
Solid.
plays.
Marvin-
He's a mid tier 2.
He had Marvin Jones kind of in and out at that number,
Tyreek
at that
Hill's the
number
lead.
3.
Tyreek Hill's lead receiver.
Is he?
He
Okay.
outscored Adams by 13.
Wow.
How many touchdowns
And
Tyreek had?
I don't know.
15.
2 rushing
Wow.
and I don't know how many he had
12.
receiving.
Wow.
2 rushing and 15 receiving, so 17 total. Adams had 17 receiving.
Golly. Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, probably best
Second.
running back in the league this year.
Yeah.
He's second in rushing. He is.
In fantasy football,
He was number 1 in all-purpose.
He was number. I think he's number 1
Running back.
fantasy. Is he him or
Is he number
Kamara?
one?
Check that.
I thought Kamara still
It's,
was
yeah,
touchdowns.
he had 6 touchdowns last week. I might have done it.
If Kamara did it, it's because of 1 week blowout.
Yeah,
There's
right.
consistency
I
for
mean,
that.
Cook had 2 of those weeks, like back-to-back.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean,
Kamara
still-
started off like the first 8 weeks as number 1
He
running
was.
back.
He
Right.
was.
And then he went downhill
And Breeze got hurt.
a little bit. Right, but he went downhill. That one pretty much maintained throughout.
Kamara outscored Cook by 6 points.
Okay. So one of those touchdowns.
Right.
David Montgomery, who
Had a great
Talk
second
about
half.
this. We
If
said
he had to
going
pick-
into it.
If you had to
I hate
pick
the guy.
a late season MVP, just an MVP for the past one of just guys that blew up,
So if I wanted one guy to have on my team going into the playoffs,
that blew up in the second half of the season, would it be him?
him and Jonathan Taylor. Taylor had a really
Yeah,
good
Taylor
run.
did turn it on.
Taylor did turn it on.
I think he
But
scored
yeah, I
over
mean-
20 the last.
And that
3 or 4
speaks a
weeks.
lot for how long did he have Montgomery the entirety of the season?
No,
He traded
He
him
traded him.
with. Oh man,
that's a good question.
I got to go back through. He traded him
that
mid-season. I want to say it was I want to say it was with Scorp. It was
I
I
thought
think
it was
DJ
Anders.
Moore and
That's
David
exactly what it was.
Montgomery
Yeah.
for Kenny Galladay. No, that can't be right.
I think it was in that
Galladay
that
was definitely in
week.
it because Reitmeyer had Galladay.
That week that there was like 7 trades.
Yeah, there was a lot of trades that week. Let's see if we can go back and check that real quick.
I know you're probably right on that one because Galladay was a big trade. We talked about it, and then the next week he got hurt.
Yeah, dude. You want to talk about making a move at the right time? That was it.
Yeah.
That was
What a
it.
big win for him.
Seriously, dude.
Did he flip DJ Moore? Or was DJ Moore on his bench the final week?
I don't remember seeing DJ on.
I don't. That's what I'm starting to. All right, so I'm to the trades
David
now.
Montgomery and DJ Moore for Kenny Galladay. That was a trade on
That was.
October the 22nd.
Remember, that's when Scorp had like 4 running backs and wasn't using Montgomery at all. And that's when most of us had even started talking about dropping Montgomery. Like, that's how bad he had been.
I talked trash about David Montgomery for the first 11 weeks of the season, and then he just started turning it on.
So, yeah, you want to talk about comeback player on a season?
Yeah, DJ Moore was on his bench. I don't know
I
why
can
he
see
wasn't.
that.
And
And DJ
Logan,
Moore was top 5 in receiving this year, or he flirted with it for a while. I don't know.
I mean,
if
he
finished.
started off the season pretty bad. And DJ
Yeah,
Moore,
and then he came
hit
on.
his stride there.
yeah, middle of the season. Logan Thomas ended up being his tight end. He had Ebron for a large. He had Ebron for the whole season.
I think everybody at this table started Logan Thomas as their tight end in 1 week besides
I have
you.
not.
Besides me, I ain't starting Logan.
Did you not? Did you have him and drop him?
No.
Okay.
I started Jared Cook.
I did it 4 times. Brian did it a couple
I
times.
started Jared Cook.
I did
the
too.
week That
I dropped
I,
him.
I
Harrison,
used Jared Cook for a week, and then you picked him up.
I
when I
started
got
him.
Yeah.
I can't remember who I had on
Got
my bench.
0 points.
Whoever I had on my bench scored 20. Thomas scored 3.
Yep.
So then I flipped it. Thomas goes for 20.
Thomas only
think I
did
go
well
for
on
5.
somebody's bench.
Yeah.
Unless it was right mark.
So I just got rid of him.
Yeah, did you look at Reitmeyer's team, man? Like, that's a strong team. He had Debo. Debo got
The
hurt.
weakest spot on his team was his kicker.
Well,
We
you
don't
know,
have kickers.
Jake brought up in one of the first podcasts, if you look at Reitmeyer's team, it had so much explosion on this team that he had anybody go off.
Mm.
And they did just about every damn week. They did.
You're right.
Tyreek Hill didn't
I mean,
have
at any
those
point
down
in time.
weeks that he usually has.
I actually do remember that at the draft night, I voted for Brian to have the best team, but Reitmeyer to have the most dangerous team.
Yeah. I believe that's good.
Yeah, I saw his team was like, wow, that.
Reitmeyer's
Just
got
because
some
of
Reitmeyer's
He's
team.
got some high ceiling guys.
Yeah.
very high.
But they never had low floors.
But say he didn't have Allen at that time.
Yeah.
That changed because he had Breeze.
Right.
Drew Brees.
That changed things.
Reitmeyer could go into halftime of the 1 o'clock games with 40 points. And then by the start of 4 o'clock, he'd have
And then
130.
Kansas City
yeah.
kicks off.
Yeah, yeah. Golly. All right, so our second manager award, the Cinderella story.
The person that we all kind of sat here and
The
said
glass slipper.
he might not score over 100 points. He might not win a game.
Might
He-
not win a game.
Yeah.
That's the biggest one, I think. Might not win a
And
game.
we all were paranoid. Who would he be at our table? Like we were all like, "God, I hope it ain't me. I hope it ain't me."
We're looking at the playoffs, and we're thinking there's
There's
one
one
spot.
team that's not going to make it. So
It's like you only have to get out of the 9 spot.
Yeah, you can- yeah, right.
The 10 spot's locked up.
10 spots locked up. That's what we thought 6 weeks into the season.
It was, though. We pegged the wrong team to be locked
Pegged
up.
the wrong team.
Wrong kid died.
Wrong kid died.
Hey, shit.
Baby Roberts, we're sorry.
Back to the HR thing. Just one. Just need one.
So the Cinderella story, it's down to one. It's
Yeah,
down
it's
to one.
We've narrowed it down to the team that
We've
won.
narrowed it down.
It's only one.
And that goes to
Mini Reitmeyer.
The 08 Lions.
Michael Smith, the 08 Lions. Dude, it's almost like he changed his team.
Can you look at his roster and see if Saquon's still on there?
Oh, yeah, it's still on there. Are you kidding me?
Yep, IR.
We have 2 IR spots in a COVID season.
COVID.
Thank you, Brian. And he had Saquon and Cortland Sutton in his 2 IR spots for like
And they weren't
12
coming
weeks. They were both on season-ending IR. They weren't coming back, and he kept them both there.
All right, here was his week 1 team. Okay, I'm going to tell you his week 1 team, and then I can show you on here too. His week 1 team, and then what he ended up with. Okay, so in week 1, here's what he had at QB: Daniel Jones. Number 1 receiver, Will Fuller.
Yep.
Number 2 receiver, Cooper Kupp.
Yep.
Number 3 receiver, Deshaun Jackson. Okay. Number 1 running back, Saquon Barkley.
Yep.
Number 2 running back, James Conner. Tight end, Hayden Hurst. And then his flex, Kenyon Drake.
Hang gonna lie, that don't sound like a bad team.
No, that's
It's
It's
not.
a fine team
Sounds like a
until
really
you
good
realize
team.
that Daniel Jones had a down year. Saquon gets hurt. Cortland Sutton
just
wasn't on- yeah, he just
was
got
on
hurt.
his bench and got hurt
Yeah.
right then. He had Noah Fant on his bench, Mike Gesicki on his bench, Zach Moss on his
He
bench.
dropped
Evan
the wrong
Ingram
tight end.
Evan Ingram on his bench.
If he'd have kept Gesicki, like he started Fant in the first half of the season, Gesicki in the second half, he'd have been fine.
I played him in week 1, and the only reason I beat him is because of Saquon. Like, he had 6 rushing yards.
Wasn't
If
that on a Monday night?
It
Did they
was.
play on Monday night?
It was. If he has
A touchdown.
anything, yeah, if he has a touchdown, I'll lose.
If he has a Shanko game, 1 catch, 1
Yeah.
yard, 1 touchdown.
Yeah, if he scores a touchdown, that's over. And then his week, well,
Just look at week
Go to
14.
yeah, let's go like
14's the first round of the playoffs.
all right. His week 14 team: Roethlisberger, Cooper Kupp, Corey Davis,
Who had a good second half of the or middle stretch of the year.
Cole Beasley, who had some very good stretches.
Yeah. Especially
Uh,
when John Brown was out.
Yeah, Kenyon Drake, now his number 1 running back.
Yeah.
James Conner, who just kind of fizzled out.
He did.
Really bad at the end. Evan Ingram ended up being his tight end. Bashard Perryman on his bench. Duke Johnson, Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant, Jalen Hurts, Tony Pollard,
Yeah.
Saquon.
Saquon's still there, still making stuff.
But,
Yeah,
dude, his
Hurts.
starting lineup changed a lot over the years. Really, the only guys that were consistent in his lineup week in, week out, Cooper Kupp
Cup and Drake
and
Connor.
Drake. But Drake was still like, dude,
Bad.
iffy those first like 4 or 5
Until he
weeks,
got
dude.
hurt, he was not looking good. He had 1 week, I think, before he got hurt, where it was like a Monday night game. I think he had like a 50-yard touchdown
Yeah.
run or something. And he got hurt, missed a game, came back, and then he was actually productive. He actually scored.
We did some segments throughout the course of the season about like panic meter and
Mhm.
like should this guy be dropped. Drake was brought up routinely on those
Yes.
segments, and each time we all were like, "Yeah, I think it's time to move on from Drake."
I offered
rid
him
of
a
him.
trade on the podcast, Drake for Carson straight up, and he denied it.
And
And
Drake,
then, like 2
You
weeks
said it
later,
never
Carson got
happened?
hurt. No, he just rejected the trade.
Oh, okay. All right.
yeah, Drake ended up being, pretty decent player down the stretch.
Yep.
Yeah.
From week 10 on, he had 1 game under 9. It was a 5-point game against Philly in week 15. The rest of them, 9.4, 12, 15, 12, 22, 14.
Murray hurting his shoulder and not running as much in the red zone helped out.
I did
a lot.
For sure. Our third managerial award goes to best manager. So, how do you look at this award?
I don't know.
So,
The person that had done the most with their team, I guess.
the most with their team.
Most moves goes to Jordan. We
Most
already
moves goes to
established
Jordan. He's the move maker.
He move make. He
that.
make
I mean, I
the
guess
move.
because Broach made the championship,
Based on
and he only had the least amount of moves, you could give him best draft. But I don't know. He didn't really manage his team because
he did so well in the draft.
he had 1 night that he managed his team, and then just
Well, can we throw some suggestions out there and make our argument for the person? It doesn't mean that's who you're going to vote
Yeah,
for. Just throw
yeah.
out some names and tell us why you would put that person.
Okay.
So, can I go first on this one?
Dude,
Jordan
yeah.
Powell. And let me tell you why on Jordan Powell.
tell us.
I think in the regular season he finished top 3.
Yeah,
I think
he
he
finished
finished
second.
second because
He
I
finished
played on
second.
round 1. And then lost to you by how much in the second round? I thought that was a pretty close
It
matchup.
was a close
wasn't it?
matchup. I came back and gave him a 10.
And how many times throughout the course of the year did we look at Jordan's team and Michael Thomas didn't play a big chunk of it, wasn't the same guy.
Julio didn't
Didn't
play
buy
Julio
out.
didn't play a lot. I
Didn't
mean,
buy out.
like,
We talked about
And
how
we
bad
said-
his running backs were, and the one good running back he had didn't even play in the playoffs.
exactly. And the fact that this guy, we mocked his running backs after the draft, said how bad and weak it was. We were like, oh, he's going to win. His receivers got to go off. He
I
played
don't even
most
think
of
we
the
mocked
season.
him after the draft. I think we mocked
At
him
the draft,
mid-draft. Especially
Well,
Mike.
And then we said,
Certain
he
individuals,
had,
we
well,
mocked
we said he had to win with receivers, and
Yeah.
then his big-time receivers didn't play a big chunk of the season or do much. So, like,
and
the
his
fact that
MVP quarterback didn't play well.
yeah, I mean, like, he took Lamar a pick after you took Pat, and until really the playoffs, that was a
Wasn't
bad
working
pick.
out. Yeah, it was.
All right. And the fact that where he finished, and some of that could go to our midseason horseshoe kind of talk.
Oh,
where
yeah.
we
I
said
mean,
he
he
had
did
some
have a
lady
horseshoe.
luck.
It's still up there. I
But-
saw it at breakfast this morning.
Sometimes we say that. Some of
We're
that
gonna
has to
talk
be
about that later
credited
on.
to Jordan for ad drops, putting people in, and just winning each week.
He was a grinder.
Yeah.
He was. He's a Gruden grinder.
A sandwich.
Spider 2 Wild Banana.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point
I like it.
on Jordan.
I'd say Andrew Ransdale.
Rams did he? All right, tell me why.
He made it. I think at one point we're sitting here talking about his free agent pickups, and it seemed like everyone he was touching was turning to gold.
You talking about like Justin Jefferson and Robert Tonyan?
Well, let's see the
Those
guys
worked out pretty
because
well
he picked up several. He picked up several throughout the course of the season. Brandon Cooks was one of those,
Yeah.
and it looked after those first until Bill O'Brien got fired, it looked like Brandon Cooks was just going to get wasted there.
Well, I think the entire Texans team looked
wasted
until Houston
Yeah.
fired Bill O'Brien.
Somebody,
You get rid of Bob, everything started going
Yeah.
up.
all right, so I clicked on your team, Jake.
It's
You had a good
okay.
team. You had a
Thank
good team.
you.
I'm proud of you, Turd Sandwich.
Trades for Mixon. Start the season.
I'm clicking on the wrong teams. All right, go ahead. I'm listening.
Hey, that's me again.
That's you. I know. It's got a baba booey.
He rode with Kirk Cousins and was pretty successful doing it. Going in between
Who
two
was driving?
quarterbacks.
Was Kurt driving?
No, probably Thielen and Jefferson were driving.
I think Cook was driving.
But
and they were
he,
outside.
I mean, he managed starting two quarterbacks on and off, and it didn't really destroy him. It didn't hurt him as much.
It's not an easy thing to do.
That's really
I
not.
tried.
To having two quarterbacks that are about the same.
Right, yeah. It's
Just
bad
don't
enough
know
doing a running back.
each week
Yeah.
which one to go
If
with.
you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. Old Bill Parcells.
And if it was me personally, I would ran with Cousins every week because I've got two other wide receivers.
Yeah.
But he would pretty much, when he would start Watson, when he would alternate him, I mean, it worked out.
You bring up some good points because he managed to go most of the season, or not most, no, about half season without Nick Chubb. It was his,
and more than half the season without Joe Mixon.
yeah, more than half season without Joe Mixon. Picked up Myles Gaskin.
Mhm.
That was a big pickup.
That was
That
a good one.
Traded for, no, he didn't trade for Mark Andrews. Traded for Tunyon.
Trying, yeah.
Traded for Tunyon.
Did he trade for Tony or just pick him up?
He
No,
traded
he
for
traded
him.
for him.
Broach had him.
Oh, yeah.
There was a defense swap in there.
Broach had him but didn't need him. I think he got
Is that
Pittsburgh's
the
D
first
out of it.
defense trade?
No.
No.
We've traded Pittsburgh's D before. We traded San Fran, but I think that was the first one where the centerpiece of the trade was the defense.
Yeah, possibly.
Usually it's just a throw in type thing.
The Justin Jefferson pickup can't be understated. I mean, yeah, hit a solid. He had a good. I mean, and honestly, if he in week, what was it, in the second round of the playoffs, if he just starts a different defense, he wins.
If I think it was he had Pittsburgh and Baltimore in the going against each other.
And
Maybe
Minka
start the
Fitzpatrick had to score a touchdown.
Yep.
Did he score a touchdown?
Nope. But if he would, he would have won.
Yep.
And then he might have won last week because he had 129 on his bench.
Yeah.
So he could easily be sitting here, second.
He wouldn't be sitting here. He's building
No,
a
he
shed.
would. No, he
He
would.
would be here today.
If
No, he would.
if
Yes, he
won.
would.
He was supposed to be here last night.
Now, he would be here for 20 minutes so he's got to leave to build that shed. But he would be here.
He would be here.
I mean, what better weather to build a shed?
As soon as he hands him that cash, he's out the door.
Probably true.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
actually probably leave. Forget about it.
Ron, who you got
There you
best
go.
manager?
The guy that just picked up $400 in cash off the table.
It's me.
He lost the best running back in football,
Both his running backs.
and then turns around like, oh well, Mostert's still there, and then loses Mostert for majority of the season.
You ain't lying.
And then he's like, you know what, that's fine. Still got all these guys. And then Kyler Murray hurts his shoulder halfway through, who he'd been relying on. And then Calvin Ridley just hangs out with Julio too much and starts getting injured like every game.
His phenomenal pickup of James Robertson disappears in the championship.
Yeah, he's been riding James Robinson. It's like, well, I don't have McCaffrey, but I got James Robinson. He doesn't play in the playoff
And he
game.
put up the second most points in the league behind one dude who did not have to have that serious injury to replace. Brian had multiple, still put up the second most points in the league.
Yeah, I mean, the guy who had some adversity the entire season we talked about and still won. I mean, talk about a story.
Talk about a story. All right.
A 40 for 40 is coming out.
40 for 40.
You can't say the other thing for copyright purposes, but
So we got three teams that we've already kind of put up there in the running.
now who's
I'm trying. That's what I was about to ask y'all. Is there anybody else that we put in the running for potentially best manager?
Roach or Michael
they-
both could have an argument.
I think both of them could have an argument. I think Reitmeyer more so probably best draft along with
Yeah.
Broach. I think both of them
I like
feel
it
the
Roach.
draft.
best draft.
I mean,
Because Reitmeyer did make changes. Now, his main guys kept him going.
Yeah.
But Roach just basically, what was the lowest he was after like week 2? Did he drop below third?
I don't know.
I don't think so. No.
But you
I
got-
think
he
was in the top
never
five.
panicked. Didn't try to make any quick gains. He just
Stay
trusted.
the course.
He trusted Aaron, and they rode through that sunset together.
That's true.
You have to look with like real general managers and real NFLs. There are some general managers that are great at drafting and absolutely terrible making trades
Yeah.
or roster moves or contracts. And then there are guys that, like Belichick, are absolutely terrible at the draft and then just make magic happen throughout the season and the offseason. Broach was a fantastic drafter and didn't have to make moves.
It's true. That's a good point.
Brian had a good draft. Draft pick gets hurt, then I got to scramble, do some stuff.
If I didn't draft good deep in the draft, I've been screwed.
Michael thought that the only positions you could start were tight ends,
Right.
and then somehow made it work, made the playoffs.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Michael, I'm telling you.
So I mean, it's more than just you don't win your league at the draft. You also can lose your league.
You can't lose it. You can lose it. So best manager.
Brian.
I'm still going with Brian.
Go on, Brian. You don't get a vote. You don't get a
no,
vote.
No, I'm gonna vote. I'm still
It
gonna say
doesn't matter.
Andrew.
Okay, that doesn't matter. Brian wins that one.
Brian, I think you deserve best manager for all the reasons that we just spoke of. Your team changed throughout. Again, starting Jeffrey Wilson Jr. in the fantasy playoffs. I'd heard the guy's name before coming into the season, but that's about all that I know.
But the other
They
San
had
Fran's got
three. Yeah, they had 3 running backs.
He started.
I would have never saw that coming.
He
It's
started a
not close.
philosophy more so than he started a player. It's you start the starting running back for a Shanahan offense, whether it's Mike Shanahan or Kyle Shanahan.
And I appreciate it. I do. But if any of y'all were in that situation having to do that, you all 3 would have picked him up.
I don't know.
I would
Because, like,
have
there's
picked
some
up
weeks-
Jeffrey Wilson, but I don't know if I would have.
But there's some
Had
weeks in
to-
Shanahan's offense, you're like, oh, he's supposed to be the starter, and then he goes signs a dude from T-Mobile and starts him, and he
Well, because
takes off.
Tevin Coleman, I think, came back last
Yeah.
week, and it's which one are you giving? You
It
gave a
was
lot of money.
AT&T, it wasn't T-Mobile.
You gave a lot of money to
T-Mobile.
Tevin Coleman. Are you going to start him?
It was. His dad did it in Denver.
Yep.
Signed a dude from Alltel.
Off the
And-
street,
yeah.
literally.
And played him the next week, ran for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'll never forget that.
It took a lot of guts.
It did. Congratulations to our 3 award winners: Steve Reitmeyer, Michael Smith, Brian Roberts. Very good season. You guys deserve every bit of it. All right.
We will get your prize of nothing.
Nothing.
A
Yeah.
hearty,
You get
a hearty handshake.
Yeah. We'll line up and.
Once COVID gets away, we'll
Go!
start shaking hands again.
All right, so now for some player awards. We'll save the best for last. So let's go biggest non-injury flop first. Biggest non-injury flop.
I got one.
I got one.
I got
too.
Jake's first round pick.
I got Jake's first round pick too.
Zeke's mine.
Yep, Zeke is the.
I definitely think Zeke is the front runner for that award because he was the 3rd overall pick. You expect 3rd overall. You expect first round value, but towards the end of the season, it's not like you could flip him for anybody.
I think you can throw Lamar's name in there.
I think you can throw it in there.
But he turned it on towards the end.
But yeah,
Well,
he's
even
the
like,
place he got
I would
drafted.
say Michael Thomas.
But that's the injury.
It's
Non-injury flop.
That's what we said because you can always
Because injury, you can say Saquon,
When he came
first
back-
overall pick.
When he came back.
He did better than Zeke, man. Zeke couldn't even put up double
You're
digits.
hurt too. You're really hurt. There's a mental scar there. So you're gonna sell Zeke.
There's not another
I'd
name
say
that just pops out to me more than Zeke.
No, Zeke
Um,
is
Clyde Hilaire.
Claude, but he's also a rookie.
Yeah,
and
he was a
you never really
He was
know.
a first round pick.
He got overdrafted. I don't know what he drafted over Alvin Kamara. I can't tell you.
You're going first round pick.
That's what I was looking for.
Miles Sanders should be up there as well.
Well, he got hurt.
Injury riddled a lot.
Yeah, he was in and out of the lineup all year.
Yeah.
The whole category is non-injury
I know,
flop,
but
Brian.
I'm still looking at when they
I agree.
play.
I think Miles, he had some explosive games, but then he had some disappearing games as well.
Zeke had some good games.
Until that got hurt.
Yeah.
After that, I can find 2 games where he was fantasy relevant.
Yeah.
It was hard to find.
Hollywood Brown. put in there, but that's Lamar's fault.
I knew he wasn't.
Oh, he had a good stretch.
Towards the end of the season, yeah.
Beginning of the season was terrible.
DJ Moore should be up there.
And I said, I
too.
gotta
a lot
have
of people
him.
had a lot of positive. They said DJ Moore was going to have a very, very good year.
That's true.
There's
True.
a lot of
It was like a bell curve.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't start off too well.
No.
Really good in the middle.
He did some
It
good
kind
in
of
the
came
Was
back
he
down
drafted
towards the
fourth
end.
round?
Yeah, let's see.
I think he was a fourth rounder.
Let's see.
Who's
Draft
that?
DJ Moore.
He
He was third or fourth.
Yeah.
He was
It was
fourth
early.
because I think he got drafted. I hadn't taken a wide receiver yet. He could have been my number one. I think he got drafted either at the end of the third or the beginning. Of
I
the
thought it was
fourth.
the beginning of the fourth because I was
It was
gonna take
on
him in
that
the
route.
fourth, and then instead I took Jonathan Taylor instead.
I think Reichmark. No, it wasn't Reichmark.
We can check it right
It wasn't.
here.
It was scored at the beginning of the fourth.
DJ Moore, second pick of the fourth round.
Yeah.
Todd Gurley's another one you could throw up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
He started off decent because he was scoring touchdowns, but end of the season he wore down pretty quickly. Trying to think of another injury wise. There's plenty you can throw up there.
like-
I mean, golly, start with Saquon, McCaffrey,
James Conner.
Thomas.
He just tweaked his ankle but stayed in the game. But still,
Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews was drafted as what tight
Tight
end
end
3, tight end 3.
2.
He was three
No,
because
I
I took Kittle.
Oh, yeah,
and
y'all took Tittle. I was thinking Waller, but yeah, I think I couldn't remember if he got
Waller.
drafted before
When
Waller.
was T.Y.
or
drafted?
late.
It was like
T.Y. got drafted the same round that Hollywood Brown got drafted.
I want to say he was my
That was
third wide receiver.
8th or 9th, yeah.
Yeah.
Marquise Brown was my
And
third
I had already
receiver.
had 4 players ahead of him. So, yeah, I'd say he was like 8th or 9th.
Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon did good. Melvin Gordon doing bad was just them trying to throw Lindsey in there.
Zach Ertz. Maybe he's hurt.
He did get hurt, but
Yeah,
he was
hurt.
terrible before he got hurt. So,
He
yeah.
was not good at all.
All right, so I mean, we could
Juju.
Juju. I don't know. Juju had some good games
Yeah.
after he figured his role out.
Never went over 100 yards receiving.
But he had like 7 or 8 receptions
Yeah.
pretty consistently there at the end. Because I looked the last 5 weeks of fantasy football, he was 9 or 10 points for me, except for once against Cincy.
Honestly, there's
And then
really
Le'Veon.
there's not one that really jumps out.
I mean,
No.
Le'Veon.
Other than maybe Le'Veon.
James Conner.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
that Conner, but he
Conner
did
would
kind
be
of
good.
get hurt.
Yeah,
Drake as well. I mean, I know he had some good finishes.
Drake
but
did go early. Drake
Drake
went
went second
Drake
round.
went second round.
last pick of the second round.
I wanted Drake before I wanted before Aaron Jones. I said, you know what? No, I'm not going to do it. Because I was like, I'm going to get Collar. That didn't happen
That didn't
either.
happen either. All right, so what do you guys think? Non-injury flop.
I'm
Who'd
still
you
going
go
to
with?
I would go ahead and say Zeke.
It's Zeke.
Yeah,
I think even some of us had talked on draft night. I had talked to Michael that he was back and forth because he was not going
Not
to take
going
McCaffrey.
McCaffrey.
He didn't know if he wanted Zeke or
I remember that conversation.
Yeah.
That
Saquon.
Dallas's offense was set up to be dominant because their defense wasn't good
yeah.
coming into the season. They're like, well, we got Dak, these 3 wide receivers, we got Zeke, this offensive line, Blake Jarwin. I mean, we're going to be good.
If the Jets are a turd, Dallas is a polished turd. It looks good, but it's still shit.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so
Well said.
let's go worst drop of the year.
Is this worst drop?
Worst drop. So somebody that shouldn't have got dropped that got dropped, and man, it turned out pretty good. I got two.
I
Right
got
top of my head.
two week
But it
one.
benefited-
Yeah, I did
before
too.
week
I did
one.
too.
It benefited both teams.
Because it's essentially a trade.
It was. It was.
Those
Go ahead.
players, James Robinson,
Yep. Justin Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson.
I was going Josh Allen.
Josh Allen didn't get drafted, though, so he wasn't dropped.
I picked him up and dropped him.
Oh, Jake!
I know. That's what I'm saying.
I picked him up and dropped him because I was pissed on draft night. I was like, how did Josh Allen not get drafted? So I literally, first thing I did when it went live is I picked up Josh Allen. And then I can't remember what had happened. I was pretty sold on Russell Wilson for the beginning part of the season.
As well you should have.
I felt fine about
No,
it.
you're not.
Yeah.
You're not going to put him up.
Didn't
But
look back.
you just
To
want-
piggyback
Even-
on Matt.
even with him doing what he did, you still wouldn't have taken Wilson now. No.
Not until maybe playoff
Right.
trips
Yeah.
where I would have considered
Right,
it.
yeah, you
The
know
first
that.
8 weeks.
Jake drafted Raquel Armstead, the presumed starter for
Yeah.
the Jaguars,
That's true.
and then picked up Josh Allen. And when he dropped Josh Allen, like, obviously Jake's going to go pick up James Robinson because they announced him as the
Yeah.
starter. Nope. Brown swoops in and grabs James Robinson.
I thought Andrew had picked him up first, and Andrew dropped James Robinson, and then you picked him up.
Yes, I'm saying. He
That's
swooped
what
up and picked him up. Like, how does this happen?
I dropped
I did go
Jefferson
look
Ford.
Rockwell Armstead, is he
Yeah.
still alive? Have we gotten an update
No,
on
he
Rockwell?
got
No,
COVID
no.
the second time, and no one's reported on him since.
That's what we want to
He
know.
is
That's
literally
our
in Area 51 being studied right now.
He's hanging out with Carmen Sandiego somewhere.
Him and Tupac.
Hey, he's-
No, I will say when I picked up Allen that I tried offering him to Michael. Was the one I tried because
He had Daniel Jones.
and I tried to trade it. And when that got rejected, I was like, whatever. And so I dropped him. And yes, that was again. I didn't feel bad about it
No.
for a large portion of the season.
I don't
but
think it would have made a huge difference. in
I
the
could have
year.
maybe got like a third receiver that I desperately. Me and JT battled receivers a lot, and it's always nice to have a position or player that you're not going to play but has a lot of value that you could try to trade to get someone of value back.
Jake, you dropped Josh Allen to pick up Kerryon Johnson
You're damn right I did.
because it looked like he was starting week 1 for Detroit.
Yeah, and I had we had talked about Taylor not getting the starting job because of Marlon Mack, so I didn't have another running back that I felt good with.
Okay,
as well.
so
Andrew dropped Darrell Henderson to pick up James Robinson, but then turns around and just drops James Robinson. Didn't pick up anybody when he dropped him, just dropped him.
That's right.
And Brian spent $5 on him and dropped Bryce Love, who I don't know if he got a carry for Washington this year.
he did.
I dropped Marvin Jones Jr. and that was a mistake because he had a great stretch.
You did the right thing because even though you lost in the first round, Allen put up 19, Wilson put up 23.
So, I mean, it's,
You did what you could do.
Yeah.
You did what you could do.
So
So best or worst drop?
it's probably Jefferson.
for me, the worst drop's James Robinson because nobody knew it. But you look at Andrew's running backs throughout the season, he didn't have Joe Mixon and didn't have Nick Chubb for a long stretch. James Robinson would have helped out quite a
Yeah,
bit
that would have been huge for him.
Just like
dropped Crowder.
because Brian
I would like to look at what Ryan was just kind of pointing out, the impact of the person that dropped it. Like what could have been the
That
point
definitely would have
differential.
helped his team.
So like he dropped a position of need, and a guy who did very well compared to like you were pretty solid at receiver all year,
Oh, yeah.
and I was set at quarterback. Like it was bad drops. They had value in a trade.
would Brian have made the playoffs if he didn't have James Robinson?
No.
No,
No.
Because you were what, 2
no.
games from not making the playoffs?
Yeah.
James Robinson was consistent the entire time.
I got another one.
You gonna start Lynn Bowden Jr. in those spots?
No. I got another one for you.
No.
Reitmeyer dropped T.J. Hawkinson.
Second best tight end in football. Been saying it for years.
He was third.
Imagine if
That was
Reitmeyer
joking,
kept
but-
him.
God, I mean, dude.
Holy crap!
I mean, that changes his seating completely.
But who did right?
If he don't
he had
go
Logan
against
Thomas
you,
in
Raul,
there.
Yeah, Logan
Wins the
Thomas and
championship.
Ebron, but
Well, Ebron had a good stretch. there for a
Ebron did
while.
have a good stretch.
But
No
Hawkinson
doubt.
was basically
Hawkinson-
a touchdown almost every week.
Right, dude. That's
And,
it.
and then I beat Jordan round 1, and it changes everything.
It changes everything.
James Robinson. I agree with that, though. And it's not, and I don't even, it's only the worst drop in retrospect.
Yeah.
It wasn't the worst drop then because I'm like,
Right.
okay, dropping a rookie running back
Yeah,
on
yeah,
a
yeah.
team that's not going to be good. Even though they won the first game and lost every one since. Yeah.
I started for the most part. Almost everybody that I drafted is who I started for most of the year, besides when Dak got hurt. Maybe I've traded for Chart, but never really played him.
Yeah.
And then tight ends, when I lost both my tight ends, I had to make a pickup. But other than that, like I picked up a lot of guys, didn't really play them a ton.
All right.
Just bye-week fillers, so I don't really have
Is
a
there a
drop. So I
conference-
didn't really drop anybody.
Is
It's
there
good.
a conversation to be had on this next one, or is
No,
it
I'm going to go ahead and
I don't even know what the next
Nominate
one is.
yourself.
Antonio Brown
What's the next
Worst
Oh,
trade.
worst trade.
for
Darren Waller?
Aaron.
Dude, I'd love to look up Darren Waller's stats after the trade and compare him to Antonio Brown.
Not good.
Because Waller went the crap off.
I said Waller won that trade when it was accepted, like when it first happened.
Waller was the second best tight end this year, correct?
He
Wasn't.
was.
I think he had a pretty big gap over number 2.
JT had the 2 best tight ends the
Which
entire
is
season.
always a philosophy of yours, dude.
Look,
Even if you don't,
my receivers were trash,
I know,
and I
I
panicked.
What?
I panicked. oh no!
You
I know
own
I
it. You
sabotaged
own
my team. I know.
it's like you could have started them every week, but they had to be started in tight
I
end spot
wanted-
and flex, so you didn't have flexibility
I
there.
wanted flexibility, and I could have got better than Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
But Man, I think he's.
But does Broach have the season he had in the second half, maintaining first place without Waller? I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
He had some close victories.
Yeah, but
Where
Waller had some
Waller
games
went
where like
off.
20 or
Yes, that's
25.
what I'm saying. So without Waller,
some of
I don't
those
know.
trades.
I can tell you
Shaky.
this much: without Waller, he's not in that championship game.
No, he's
Defense
not.
or not.
He's
Oh,
not.
no. I mean,
He's
that,
not.
that really helped solidify his lineup.
Right, and
That's
I think
like
it solidified
everything
JT's as well. That Antonio Brown, in order for that trade to be somewhat,
He had to be.
He had to
Pittsburgh
be-
Antonio Brown.
well, not necessarily that, but at least
close to
number
it.
one or number two receiver on Tampa Bay, and he was
Do you think that
number
was the
three, maybe
definite
even number four behind
to your
Gronk.
fantasy playoff hopes?
Yeah, definitely. Because then I was just, and then
That,
probably
the
don't
fact
know
that
Odell got hurt.
Hunt didn't score really the second half of the
Yeah,
season.
Even the shark trade, I know that was kind of a
That was basically-
I still don't feel. I didn't feel good about it the first week because Chark had a great
Right.
game and Marcus Brown didn't have a catch.
yeah.
After that,
Hollywood
Hollywood
Brown
was
had
five
rounds.
ended up
I
being
agree.
okay.
I agree. But I was saying, like,
When JT was still
did you
alive,
really get that
Hollywood-
much better receiver with
No.
Brown?
When Odell got hurt, dude, I panicked because I knew I didn't have any receivers after Odell.
Yeah.
Chark being my next best one, and Chark, like you said, didn't even really start on your team.
Right.
That was my number two. When Odell went down, that was my number one.
He was my number
And so-
5 receiver, but I was like, he could blow out. But they don't have any quarterbacks in Jacksonville.
I didn't hit on any receivers.
No.
And you're not going to win. You're not going to win fantasy
Especially
football
when you have to
without
start 3 of them.
Right, you're not going to win fantasy football without good receivers. So that's what I was trying to do. Try to do too much.
Let me, kind of in and not in at the same time. Adam Gase is going to be let go.
Yeah, they're after tomorrow. He's getting let go.
Crazy.
And
They've already let him know so he can start lining up other jobs.
Yeah.
non-NFL related, Sarkisian is going to be announced this afternoon or tomorrow.
For Texas.
Mhm.
Is he not going to coach in the national championship game? Then?
No.
For sure. Sometimes they get accept
Yeah,
jobs.
so right now they're saying
Sometimes they
no,
accept it, and he
but-
still coaches, but you never know.
I feel like he probably will stay for the championship.
He might.
You would hope. I don't know.
All right, so best pickup. I know we did worst drop James Robinson. Best pickup.
I feel like his name could get repeated because of injury-riddled Brian Roberts running backs.
Team
and
need.
he needed it desperately.
He didn't
James
know that he needed
Robinson,
it.
I'll say without a doubt.
No.
No.
But I think Andrew,
No,
if you're
Justin
talking about
Jefferson, man.
works too.
I would say Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, second overall QB by less than a point behind
Yeah,
Kyler Murray.
but how much of a difference was it from Josh Allen to Drew
So
Brees?
he
huge difference.
Gigantic difference.
And
Josh Allen.
it literally led him to have the best team in our league.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a
Yeah.
good point.
I mean, we brought up good names and stuff like that. But
Now-
that made Reitmeyer's team.
Do we give best pickup to Reitmeyer or Jake? Because Jake picked him up first.
I'm
just kidding, buddy.
So funny.
All right,
It was a good pickup.
Yeah,
You should have kept him.
I've done
It was a good
I've done
pickup.
this before.
We've been down this road.
Yeah, but you have
I've had
a
gut
track
feelings.
record of having two really good QBs.
Yeah, I've had gut feelings on guys, and I'm telling y'all, and then sometimes my gut feelings hit, and then other times I'm way off because I was like, Ian Thomas going to be the next great tight end. Carolina drafted this tight end.
That's
who's
Ian
super
Thomas's
athletic.
fault.
Yeah, missed that one.
Horsey.
Missed that one pretty bad.
But he needed Josh Allen. He
Yeah.
had to have Josh Allen.
Yeah.
You didn't have to have
No.
Josh Allen.
And
It was a
again,
luck.
I don't feel bad about that one. Where if I was Andrew and kind of dropped James Robertson, who would have really helped my team.
Yep.
And imagine Andrew with them, other than like the final week of the season, where I guess he wouldn't have had him in the championship. I mean, Andrew probably wins.
He could have been right up there with
yeah.
Broach as
Yeah.
the number
He
one
probably
team coming in.
he might win it.
Yeah.
Like seriously,
That's
he
what I'm
might
saying.
win the
Legitimately,
championship.
James Robinson was a stabilizing force for Brian's team
Yeah.
when he had major injuries to his top 2, top 3 running backs.
If Minka Fitzpatrick would have scored that touchdown, they might win.
I
no
guarantee
matter
it. I guarantee it. Had a staple for
I
free.
hope Andrew doesn't listen to this.
He doesn't. He's building a shed.
All right, lastly, we got the fantasy MVP. So the most valuable player in fantasy this year. Who was it? I think there's a lot of names that can be thrown out there.
We can say James Robinson's name again just to get it out of the way.
I'm gonna nominate Dalvin Cook
For fantasy MVP?
for fantasy
You know who I would
MVP.
have loved to have championship round? Kamara. Let's
Yeah.
also look at how much
Can
he
we
was
bring this
overlooked in
up
our
for
league.
just a second?
Go ahead.
If Scorp makes the championship,
He would have won because of Kamara.
he would have. He also had Tom Brady. I don't know if he would have started him, But if he had started those
He
two,
had Brady and
Just those two would've got
Kamara.
100
That's
Yeah.
no, it's not 100. It's
I
80,
exaggerate.
84.
But still, that's only 2 players.
84.
He outscores
84 plus 15 is 99. But this is also he's not able to make add drops.
right.
He's probably got 125, 130 right there.
Yeah.
Kamara's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm saying Travis Kelce, just because he led the league in receiving yards, I think, and he was a tight end.
Did he lead in
That's a
receiving
big
yards?
I think he was when the fantasy playoffs were over.
Yeah, he's not, and I don't think he's going to.
He's not playing.
He's playing this week.
No.
Well, I know Mahomes is not playing.
Mahomes
I know
is
Tyreek Hill's not playing. But that doesn't matter as far as fantasy numbers. But the tight end landscape is just terrible after him. Like Waller was good this year, but he still probably finished 40 or 50 points behind.
Stephon Diggs ended up first in receiving.
Okay.
Yeah. Travis Kelce was second.
Yeah, like Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce
Probably
had
had
more.
like 100 catches.
Travis
right around
Kelce
it.
had more. Let's see. Catches. He had 105. He set the receiving
Yeah, he
record
set
for
the
tight end.
yards record, beat Kittle's.
Mhm.
Then receptions he had over 100. Touchdowns he had, I think, probably around 10. Like Travis Kelce gave you – it's almost like you played with 11 players while everybody else was playing with 10.
He finished sixth non-QB in fantasy.
So
That's
flex eligible players, he
he
finished
finished
sixth.
sixth.
He was basically like you played – I'm serious. He's like you played with an extra roster spot.
Oh, he was my best
Everybody else.
receiver by a long shot.
Yeah.
He's probably one of the best receivers.
Yeah. Here's the players that scored more than him: Kamara,
Mhm.
Dalvin Cook,
Mm-hmm.
Derrick Henry,
Yep.
Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams. That's it.
That's what I'm saying. Like
It's the number 3 wide receiver in football.
Yeah.
if you go into your matchups every single week, I don't care who you've got, whether it's Henry, Cook, Adams, there are matchups where like, well, I don't know, he's got a really tough matchup. This guy's got a really easy matchup. The other guy might outscore me. There's not really a week where Travis Kelce goes in and you're like, oh, this guy's going to outscore Travis Kelce. Like it's the biggest advantage in fantasy sports, I think, this year was drafting Kelce, regardless of where you took him.
I'm going to throw another one up there just because he finished first would be Kyler Murray. For the majority of the season, he did give me a lot of wins when I needed him. He, not even the number 1 quarterback, number 2 quarterback going into the season. Up there, though. I think it's ready to
He was being talked about highly, and I
Right.
wasn't going to take him as high.
I liked him. I started him in the work league last year, and I was like, he's got a chance to build on this.
I drafted
And then they gave him
Pat
Hops.
Mahomes.
Yeah, that worked.
Problem.
I'm going to throw Stephon Diggs' name out there,
He
too.
used to be up
Stephon Diggs.
I think
people didn't
overlooked.
really know.
If
That
we
was
were
Jordan's,
award
what,
for most
3 or 4?
overlooked fantasy player, it's him.
People didn't know.
And you still got to throw Josh Allen back up there again.
Yeah, because again, didn't get drafted.
Yeah.
That was Jordan's like number 3 wide receiver all season, and he led the league in receiving yards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What a double up that would have been.
Yeah.
This is tough.
This
really
is
think
tough.
about that. The double up you could have had with Allen and
Dude, up until the last month, I don't even know if I'd say last month, but DK, dude,
Yeah.
DK was setting the league on fire until
Mhm.
about midway through the season. Still had some good games down the stretch, but I mean, he was drafted in like the 6th, 7th round.
Yeah.
right around Stephon Diggs.
And you also got to throw Devontae up there. You got to throw Rodgers up there.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I'm still going Kelce. I don't think it's close for me. If I'm building my team, that was who I would do.
Who would be the with the guys that are active and all? Who would, if you had the number 1 pick, who are you drafting right now?
Right now,
Mhm.
I think I'm taking Dalvin because he was 6 points behind Kamara,
Mhm.
but he missed a game.
Who are you drafting?
at number 1 next year.
No, right now. If we were doing like a daily fantasy,
Not regardless of who's not playing week 17, just who.
knowing the rosters as they are now, McCaffrey's still hurt
Oh,
and all that. So
It would-
out of the players, who were you taking? You're taking Dalvin. You're taking
Derrick
Kelce.
Henry.
You're taking Henry.
Derrick Henry is a beast down the stretch.
Derrick Henry is
Derrick
exactly
Henry playing in
what-
cold weather.
Derrick
I'm
Henry is
taking-
exactly what he's advertised as.
Yeah.
He's just going to run it down your throat.
Yep.
And
And if he ever actually figured out how to get his pad level low through the hole, he would be unstoppable.
I don't know.
He's
if
too
can.
upright when he goes.
He looks
to
just
the-
like Eric Dickerson.
Let's say
Just like Eric
Dickerson,
Dickerson, dude, because that's exactly how Eric
Right.
Dickerson.
He just wears
Eric
goggles.
Dickerson's
But he's
skinny.
such a big guy. It's hard for him to do
Dickerson,
that.
Dickerson ran straight up.
You ever watch his high school film?
Yeah,
Derrick
it looks
Henry.
like an offensive lineman.
Doesn't look fair. Looks like a blind
Because you
side.
got these little kids just trying to tackle him, and he's just running straight through them.
Who
And
was,
it's not like-
what's that commercial? He's in that commercial with the kids and they keep throwing them out of the way. Was that Henry? Because there's not much difference there. Playing football, running it down
The
field.
fact that he's stiff arming NFL players, like, oh, he looks like he's doing little kids. And like, just imagine when he was in high school. He actually literally
I don't
was
even
throwing
know
around
if you
little
can
kids.
call that a stiff arm because they go
flattened Joshua.
flying.
It's not even a stiff arm. He just grabs them. It's like he palms their helmet, and just chucks them
I
across.
don't want you.
I do think if I had to pick one player in one game just to go off, Derrick Henry could be that guy.
I don't know.
Is it
Tyreek
weird that-
Hill would also be.
Tyreek Hill would also be.
Is it weird that my top two players that I picked were Derrick Henry and Travis Kelce, and they were both owned by the same guy?
Oh, look. I know I had some good
Don't
players.
open that can of worms.
But I'll sabotage my team.
But I'm serious. Like Derrick Henry, if I have one game,
That you're,
who I know
you got to
exactly
win.
All right.
because he's
so
going to get 100 yards and a touchdown
I like
every
what
game.
Brian said about it. Who benefited the most from one player? And like we just said that Reitmeyer probably had the best team top to bottom. And I really feel like having a quarterback that week in and week out put up consistent high stats of a Josh Allen who wasn't even drafted
Yeah.
is pretty important to kind of consider within it. And he finishes the second quarterback only 0.6 behind
Murray.
Kyler.
I'd give it to him.
So
man.
I mean, we're obviously assuming that means he was probably second in all the ratings. If that's because quarterbacks are usually the top here, right?
Mhm.
So second in the whole fantasy.
Old kid and caboodle.
Kyler again, we said was like he did finish with the most, but he was kind of advertised as a guy who should be a top 5, top 3 quarterback.
Josh Allen was advertised as, a top 10.
Dude, even
But
his
we
rookie
just-
year when he was not good throwing
Yeah.
the football, he was still a top 10 quarterback just because of his running ability.
But then is it Stephon Diggs?
and that's what I say.
Did he
We
make
talked,
that?
about, we talked about this, I think, week 2 or 3. I said, giving quarterbacks a legitimate number 1 wide receiver covers up a lot of stuff.
Is led that.
And does it help?
Stephon Diggs led the league in receiving.
Who's the other one? Kyler Murray. Going from throwing to 72-year-old Larry
Yeah.
Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk, you give him DeAndre Hopkins, and he leads the league in fantasy points. Giving somebody a number 1 receiver to throw to is great. Rodgers having to Adams for most of the season.
Not getting hurt. I'm not getting hurt.
Yeah, like it's.
And we didn't even mention Adams' name.
I throw it in there.
Oh,
Dude,
I was peeing.
how do you narrow it down? I
I
really
honestly-
don't know.
Position scarcity is what I had to do.
You can do the easy route and just go with number 1. To me, it's either going to be Kyler or it's going to be Josh
Which Josh?
Allen.
Pick one.
Could have been Jacobs.
I'll go Murray.
You're
He
going
stood by
Kelsey?
me.
I'm
I'll
going
stand
Kelsey.
by him.
I'm going Allen.
It's up to you.
I'm still going Cook. Because Cook did essentially what Kamara did with one less game.
I would have taken Cook 3rd overall, said it at the draft. And then he went 1 pick before
Okay,
me.
so
And
then
my
let's
my
look at-
entire draft just got ruined because I was
Let's
like,
look at this way.
Cook's falling to me if he doesn't. And he did.
You want to do it positionally?
I
Positionally?
think you can do that. I think that's probably,
That's
what
probably
I'm
the best
So-
way to do it.
Bet fantasy MVP per position.
All right.
Actually, all right.
So
I'm going to change the
Actually, let's
whole
do it
thing.
per
up.
AFC, per NFC.
I'm going to change the whole thing. up.
Change it.
This changes everything.
How are we going? Let's go ahead. How are we defining MVP?
How
Just
we define
most
MVP?
valuable player to the league or to a team?
Do a team.
Then I
think
believe
that's
it's
how
between 2:
Is it the same too?
James Robinson and Josh Allen.
Now, are you saying to a fantasy team?
To their.
That's what I
team.
said. What do
Who
you
made
say?
the biggest difference to their team?
hold on.
Compared to all right, so
Fantasy or the actual team in the NFL?
their fantasy team.
Okay.
Their fantasy team.
Is that what you
So
said?
I think here's how we do this. We do every team's MVP,
Okay.
and then we figure out which one is the MVP. So who was the most valuable player to each team?
What if you don't have one?
You've got one.
Okay. We can look at that.
I don't have an MVP on my team.
Yeah, you do. Everybody has
Everybody's
the best
got it.
player on
Yeah.
their team.
We've talked about this. I don't have a number 1, but I have
Even
a
if
whole
your
lot of
team
number
was
2s.
made up of middle schoolers,
All right,
one of them was going to be the best middle
let's
schooler.
go bottom up then. Let's go bottom.
Okay.
All right,
Kamar
so
first.
score Kamar.
Bottoms up. You.
Me, I don't.
Kelsey.
Kelsey.
over Henry,
Yes.
over Mahomes,
Kelsey.
I'll say Kelsey.
Kelsey.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he's the number
Because he's
one.
the best at his
Yeah. Okay.
position.
All
He's
right, all
at.
right. Kelsey, Michael.
Michael's is Cooper Cup. I didn't look at Michael's team, but I think it's Cooper
It's
Kupp.
not going to matter. There's 3 different teams you can look at. Who was the driving force behind his comeback?
Kenyon Drake turning it around.
Kenyon Drake.
So you're going to say Drake?
Will Fuller went the heck off in a lot of them.
Fuller did.
He got
Fuller
suspended.
probably still would have had him not got
I'd probably
suspended.
go Fuller.
Honestly, I think I'll go Fuller
Yeah.
as well.
Okay, so you got Will Fuller for him.
All right. So 7th was
Jake.
Either Wilson or Brown.
Wilson.
I'd
Did
say
we, did we
Wilson.
not do y'all's? 9th and 10th?
Yeah,
We did those.
I didn't do score.
Kamara.
It was Kamara.
I didn't say anything.
All right, who would it be?
Kamara.
Okay.
But I didn't get a vote.
All right.
Even though DK is pretty close.
DK is close. All right. So for Jake, it has to be Wilson.
Yeah.
And Wilson was
He did bad.
number
this last
one for
part.
till
Like, he
mid-season.
looked like he was going to be the number one quarterback, and then it kind of teetered off there.
I would give an honorable mention for AJ Brown because
That's
your
right.
wide receiving core wasn't great, but he
AJ
was-
Other
he
than
was
his-
as advertised.
He missed his 4 weeks.
Yeah, he missed-
and was kind of banged up later in the season, but he consistently put up double digits for me and solidified a bad position for me.
he was as advertised.
All right. For Ryan. Dude, all right. Looking at
Look at
Ryan's
Ryan.
team real quick.
Don't know. Terry McLaurin, maybe?
Dude, I actually like that one.
He was the only person that was consistent every week.
I was thinking Robert Woods.
I was also thinking Robert Woods.
It's one of the 3 receivers. It's either Deontay Johnson, Robert Woods,
I'm
or Terry
going
McLaurin.
McLaurin. Because I thought
Let
that
me
was
look
like
at McLaurin.
with all the stuff going on in Washington with quarterbacks and changes. I was
It
like,
would have been pretty easy if Dak wouldn't have got hurt.
You're looking at 3 bad weeks with him.
With McLaurin,
Mm-hmm.
one of them was pouring down rain. The other 2, the quarterbacks broke their legs.
which is a bad
Which
sign.
is not great. It's not great.
Dude, Clyde wasn't terrible.
I would not give him the MVP because
There
the
were-
first round kind of underperformed his draft.
There
Aaron
were 2
Jones.
there were
Aaron Jones missed 2 games. His lowest output was 8.5, 9.5. Everything else was double digits. Had 3 games over
Jones and Carson.
20, 1 game over 40.
Yeah,
Jones
I think
and
I'd go
Carson-
Jones.
Jones and
Per
Carson
play.
per game are very good. They were my MVPs per game, but Carson missed, I think, 4 games, and Jones missed like 2.5 games.
I would say Jones for me.
I'm with you on that.
Jones.
Yeah.
I'm going Scary Terry.
Jones.
Okay. Jones.
We're just going by like when they played. He was,
Yeah.
On a per game basis. Well, if they're going per game, it's Dak.
Bye week. Reitmeyer. Dalvin, Tyreek, Josh
Tyreek.
Allen.
Tyreek. for
Damn,
me.
man, he's got 3 MVPs.
I know. That's what makes it difficult.
I'd say Dalvin.
That's what I was. Okay, that's what I would. That's been my pick all along.
I might actually make an argument for Tyreek
Mine's
just
Tyreek.
because the numbers he put up.
All right, let's just for the sake of going through this, let's just put both of them, and we can narrow it down when we get to the end because we're going to cross out a lot of these.
I made an argument for Allen before we started.
I know.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. And now all of a sudden I'm thinking about it. That's why we're doing it.
Yeah. All right.
The reason why I don't say Dalvin is just because Dalvin put up what you want your first round running back to put up.
But my thing with Dalvin, nobody thought he was going to play as
Nobody.
many games as he
I
did.
mean, I want my first round. to put up
Okay, you're a
44.
brave man, or you're lying. It's one of 2.
You thought he was going to play a whole season?
The reason why I would have had Kamara as 3rd overall, because number 1 and number 2 were going to be some form of CMC and Saquon.
Yeah.
All right.
It was the real draft started at 3, and it was basically who do you want at 3? It was between Zeke, Henry, Cook, and Kamara.
Yeah.
Kamara gets an injection in his back, so definitely not doing that. So
Yeah.
for me, it was Dalvin.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, like Tyreek was.
Tyreek and Dalvin are just neck and stick and neck.
I-
You're trading off 2 44-point games for a 66.
Yeah.
That's where it comes down to.
All right, let's go to Baba Booey. So his MVP.
Can we take the wide receivers from Minnesota and put them together?
I'll say Justin Jefferson.
I think Jefferson is too. I think that was the most valuable player for his team. If he wouldn't have had Jefferson, I don't think he has the year that he does. He had some better players.
You can make
Like
an
Nick
argument
Chubb.
for Chubb if he played, because even with Chubb not playing, I think he still finished
Deshaun
top
Watson
50.
was still, top
Yeah, but
6 or 7.
Keenan
there
Allen.
was a
Keenan
lot of.
I think I'll take Keenan Allen over Justin Jefferson if we're doing wide receivers.
Of course you would.
No, but seriously, Keenan Allen, when Andrew drafted him, That was a reach because Tyrod Taylor was the starting quarterback and
That's a
looked
good
terrible
point,
week
too.
one.
That's a good
Herbert
point.
comes in. Allen missed basically 2 games.
Let's see. Allen ended up with 100 receptions, 992 yards, 8 touchdowns. Jefferson.
Oh, it's Jefferson and Thielen because they scored a lot more.
Well, Jefferson scored 7 touchdowns. Had 1267 receiving, 79 receptions.
Jefferson.
Yeah, it's Jefferson.
For me, it's hard to distinguish the Vikings receivers. I'd like to put both of them.
What he's trying to say is it's hard for him to not be biased.
Okay.
Oh, I'm biased with it.
All
It's
right.
not hard for me
Jordan's
to not be
football
inclined
team.
to do it. Gibson.
Gibson.
Oh,
Oh,
Gibson.
good.
Oh,
No,
Diggs.
Diggs.
Sorry.
Gibson.
I was
Dude,
working.
Gibson makes an argument that
Late season.
But he wasn't consistent all the way through. He kind of
Yeah, he was-
eased into it and then went off.
Adams.
Diggs was like, I think
Adams.
Diggs had like 14 catches.
Yeah. All right, Brunch.
Adams.
Adams. And victim of the system.
Whew,
I'm going to say Robinson.
For your team, Brian,
Okay.
I'm going to say Kyler.
I didn't get to
understand.
vote Adams either. I think it's Rodgers.
Because without a Rodgers, you don't have an
Rodgers
Adams.
got him like the 13th round. He took a first round pick on Adams.
Adams.
I'm still saying Adams.
Okay, I'm not saying he's not, but we at least have to have
I
that
see what you-
conversation.
I'm going to say Adams, but I 100% agree. Not 100%
It's
agree. 100%
Adams, but I'm
serious.
saying we have to give a little bit of shout
No,
out.
all
to
right, for
Rodgers.
Brian.
Can we just say
And
double?
the only reason I'm
trying to
saying
do that with the Minnesota
Robinson
one.
is
She's
because it's like we said earlier. I probably don't make the playoffs without him.
You don't.
I think it's
Do you
Jeff
make it
Wilson
without
Jr.
Do you make it without
That's
Kyler Murray?
Championship game MVP. Huh?
Do you make it without Kyler?
I pretty much did towards the end of the season when he got hurt.
Let's see. From week 12, 8.9, 16.4, 18.4, 34, 16.
I think it's James Robinson.
Yeah.
All right, Robinson.
For a similar argument that I made with Rodgers,
I'm
the
gonna go
fact that he
Murray.
was so late.
All right, so we got Robinson, Murray. So let's go ahead and cross off some of these. Then we can
Go
narrow
ahead.
it down. All right, so you cross off
Michael's team.
cross off Michael's, cross off mine,
Okay.
cross off.
I don't mark yours off. I knock mine out.
I don't.
I knocked mine off because it wasn't too terrible. I would have made the playoffs.
It was
If
the
we're,
best.
if we're going by valuable to 18,
Yeah.
I'd made the playoffs. I don't.
Well, then
That's true.
you gotta
I'm
knock
saying if you
Lamar
didn't
out.
have Kelsey, you might not have won a game.
Whoa.
Would two have
I'm
won a
just joking.
game.
What?
Just
Uh,
hey. Don't
Kamar,
listen to
then Kamar.
I still had
No,
decent
I-
points.
yes.
him. Yes.
Don't let him
he's
rile
doing
you
his
up.
thing. He's,
Okay,
he's
okay.
upset about Keenan now.
Okay.
Then you got to mark out Kamar.
I'm not
I
the Wild
think-
Boys. I'm the,
No, I don't. Okay. You know
I
what?
completely forgot we were even doing a podcast. How long have we been
Hey,
going?
probably about 2 hours.
That's what it's
Gracious.
supposed to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, sorry, fellas.
All right,
I'm
so
gonna knock
who
out-
is it?
Knock out Wilson and Jones.
Yes, thank you.
All right,
Knock
knock out Jefferson.
Yeah, because Diggs beats him there. Knock out Adams because I still think Diggs was more valuable. Maybe not. I should
Agree.
show it.
You got to leave him in.
All right.
All right, let me ask this. Here's a great question.
Knock out Kamara.
But he was the number one fantasy player.
There's no way
outside
for-
of
Hold on.
QB.
Hold on.
I want to know.
I want to ask this one, and then y'all.
Give me a-
decide. Diggs, Hill, Adams. Which one do you put as the top receiver this year in terms of importance onto the
One
team?
marry, one kill, one go.
I think Adams was the most important to a team.
Yeah.
I don't know. Jordan barely won so many games, and Diggs was a big part of that.
That is true. That is so
Like
true.
Jordan put up 8th most points, 7th most points in the league,
I don't know.
and imagine him without Diggs. Like Jordan might tell you he might not have made the playoffs without Diggs.
He went 9-4.
Are we?
Yeah, but how many games did he win by like 5
No,
points?
I
And,
agree.
like Diggs,
He went 9-4 and had the second least amount of points.
Why did we pick this one?
see.
Why did we do this?
So if you want to talk about importance to a team, Diggs carried him to a 3rd place regular season and playoff.
Well, then could we mark off both of?
I'm with you.
Can we mark off both of these like doubles right here? Because
they
they
two
might
stronger
could have still
teams.
done it if they didn't.
I
You
see
know.
what you're saying.
Look, I'm just gonna throw my argument out and I'm gonna shut up. All right.
You're still talking.
Number one, I'm not a bragging champion. I'm really not. Very humble about it.
Yeah,
I
you know
appreciate
who
it.
says that?
A lot of luck.
Braggers champions.
No.
People win championships. Like,
Here we
yeah.
go. Toot his own
No.
horn.
I'm not going to come
I'm
in.
the big winner.
I'm not going to come in here next year
Like a
and
wrecking ball?
just throw my
You're
weight
gonna
around.
carry the trophy in and just have it underneath your arm, drink beer out of it the whole night.
Oh, listen. As soon as that thing's handed to me on draft night, yeah, there's beer going in. Clean it, Michael. Anyway,
And the trophy.
I'm a champion because I had James Robinson for a season.
Yep.
Even though I didn't have him in the championship game, he was the difference maker in me being the champion and not. It's James Robinson.
There's an article on ESPN Fantasy talking about player on most fantasy teams, Travis Kelce and James Robinson,
That won the championship.
that made playoffs. They haven't made an
made
article
playoffs.
since last week, but
I'm
I've
telling you.
narrowed it down to those two.
He's
Before
not
we
the
went-
sexiest pick,
No.
but he is the most important pick.
Well, then
Most
guys, both
valuable,
Robinson,
not the
I'm
Robinson.
best.
going Robinson.
Both of them going Robinson. I'm saying Diggs because of my point that I don't think Jordan makes. I can honestly say this. I don't think Jordan makes the playoffs without Diggs.
That's the same thing for me and Robinson.
Sure.
So that's your other vote.
But you can say that about a lot. Like, I don't think Reitmeyer hadn't have the best team if he don't have Dalvin Cook or Tyreek Hill.
Reitmeyer makes playoffs with one of Tyreek and Dalvin.
Probably.
No,
He makes
he
it.
still has Josh Allen.
Right. Without Josh Allen, he probably still makes playoffs.
You probably still make the playoffs without James Robinson.
I
No, I
don't
don't.
think so.
I do. Because
Do
you
think-
still had the
well,
second
do you
most
think
points.
Jordan makes.
You
it
just had
without-
bad luck.
I
You
had
still
the second most points. I did. And
Jordan
Robinson
Jordan
was a big
didn't.
part.
Jordan finished 9th in
That's why
points.
Jordan also got the horseshoe award.
I actually
No,
understand what
no,
JT's saying. Brian finished second in points this season. So, Brian, there's still an argument to be made that you probably could have still made the playoffs without James Robinson.
You honestly, if just you had the second most points, I know that doesn't mean like you're automatically going to make the playoffs, but it's really hard to miss the playoffs when you score the second most amount of points. So you had a good team combined because you had Kyler, you had D-Hop.
I don't think I make playoffs.
You
What's
had-
your vote? We've cast our two. What's your vote?
Mine's Kelsey still. I haven't changed.
Shit.
I give Robinson the silver award, but
So, Kelsey, Robinson, and I went.
you went Diggs.
So you're either throwing in another name or you're going between three. We're not.
That's
All
why
right.
you got to be the commission.
I'll pick between y'all's three.
Okay.
Go
I'll pick
commission.
between y'all's three. You say Robinson.
I say Robinson.
You say Kelsey.
I do.
You say Diggs.
Yes.
I say this is a person who hates Travis Kelce with a passion.
I say this as your champion.
I say this as a person that lost to Diggs because he wouldn't get a catch in the second half
You know what?
last year.
I
I
know
hate Diggs.
there's a lot on your mind right now.
Mhm.
You can talk to O'Brien. He'll listen.
All right.
Always has, always will.
All right. The fantasy MVP, the most valuable player in fantasy. I'm not just going to narrow it down to a specific team. The most valuable player in fantasy
Mm-hmm.
is Travis Kelce.
There you
All
go. Maybe not how our league was set
Maybe
up
not
this
how
year.
it went this year, but
Who gives you the advantage every single week when you line up? It's that kid.
This is bullcrap. It's a victim of a system. I understand why you name it now.
Name's taken, fella. You found a different one.
Two things about it. I hate the Chiefs and I hate Travis Kelce. Hated him at Cincinnati.
No,
Hate him
I
at the
agree.
Chiefs.
I don't
He
want to
was-
pick him because he's on my team, and
I know.
and my team. you
Every
know,
other
fell
position,
apart.
you can make an argument of who was the best at it, except for tight end.
It's
Yeah.
like when you're
Not a
talking about
conversation.
who's the best player in NFL history. It's tough because there's so many different positions, so many different things. But like, there's no argument that Jerry Rice is the best wide receiver in football.
Hold on, ask
Nah,
Randy
no,
Moss.
no, wait.
Okay, that's just one guy's opinion of
I'm
himself.
talking near the run. Calvin Johnson's up there too.
Yeah.
So is Terrell Owens. But
No.
yes, he is.
Not
Yes,
near the
he
run.
Yes, he
is.
So you think he was better than Megatron?
I think he was better than Moss.
That's not what I asked.
Do I think he's better than Megatron? I mean, he played a longer
No,
career.
no.
Mhm.
Just in the time they were on the field, who was the better receiver?
Terrell Owens did that shit, and he didn't have a quarterback that liked him until Romo.
Because no one liked him. He was a jackass.
Don't have to like him.
Well, that's
You
like
gotta
saying
respect
I
him.
don't think Barry Sanders is the best running back of
He's
all
not.
time. just because
You
he was
can't
very
just,
good
you
on
can't
the
just
field.
go
He
on
didn't-
short track record. It has to
Tim
be-
Bianca Patuka is the best running back all
So
time.
who had the greatest prime as
Well, if I'm
receiver?
just going off like career stats,
All
sure.
right, look, we can't
Sustained
get this argument
success
right
with
now.
our
We can't.
career.
We've got to progress through this.
All right. Well, any last
next week's matchups? We got to go through those. We haven't done that yet.
Could that be fun? All-time podcast we go through.
We could talk some all-time stuff.
We're not doing basketball.
All right.
We're not getting this whole Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan going.
I think let's start off with it.
Hey, I'm ready to go to war when y'all are.
We'll be
All
here
right.
for hours.
Well, you got any last words for this season, champ?
No, it was a very crazy, and I appreciate everybody, rolling with the punches with us. As stupid as we are, to be confident enough to put $50 down
Yes.
and still go through a season. And hats off to all of us for coming together and coming up with a plan that actually didn't seem like shit. I mean, I thought it was a good year. I'm glad we decided to do it.
Did we think we were going to make it this far?
No.
No.
And I'm going to tell you, was it week 2 when things really started going to shit with teams getting COVID
Yeah, it
and
It was like
stuff?
2 or 3, yeah.
And everybody stuck with it. And
Money talks.
everybody really listening to the podcast and everything. I didn't expect a big turn. I knew Jordan would listen to it because Jordan listens to everything for some reason. I think to make himself feel better.
He's got the ears to the grindstone.
I've gotten multiple texts from like people within our league, and each time they just say, "This is my favorite fantasy league that I do."
How
And-
much are you paying him to
No,
text
I mean, like, Wright Meyer sent me something a couple weeks ago, or no, last week when it concluded and said, "Tell Brian, congratulations." He's like, "I don't know if you looked." I was like, "Yeah, I played you last week, dude. You put up like 1-8."
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, if I basically beat Brian, I would have cakewalked to the
Oh,
vote."
Hey,
it's-
whatever.
it's-
But he's like, I just really want y'all to know how much I appreciate it. And like, even talking to Jordan, Michael, like everyone keeps up with their team.
Mhm.
Everyone makes this the most
It's a
competitive
great league.
league in.
Yeah,
And then,
It's a great league.
I know we give them a hard time from time to time, but I have leagues that I'm in with my family, and I hate the way they run it because they are dictators. They are ones who make rules that only benefit them and
Penis
what they
potatoes.
wanted. And so, I think it's something where we can sit here and tell JT thank you for all he does, not only for the league, but the
Wait a
thank you.
minute. I was with you. I didn't think you did that.
Thank you, JT.
It is a well-run league.
Thank you, Tate.
It's fun. It's something that I will do until the day that I die. So, JT, thank you.
Till the day
I appreciate
I
it.
So I really do
I
appreciate
appreciate
how
that.
well the league is put together, how competitive it is, and how much interest you take to be able to even put something like this on.
Listen, there's a mutiny on your hands. It's happening. I can tell you right now who's going to run it.
I've seen Star Wars. I know how this works.
Hey, let me pat you in the back. There's a knife in his hand.
So we know what we already know that fantasy basketball. I've already sent out the message.
Okay, Palpatine. I see where you're going.
But
with
no.
this.
It's great.
Yeah.
We know what's under that cape.
And, bro,
Lightning hands!
I really, honest to God, I thought if there was one person I could bet on not listening to this, it was Broach. I think you said
Yeah,
Broach.
I talked
Broach
to
listens
him.
to Are you crying? Is it
no.
over with Jake? Or are you laughing?
Oh God. Yeah, Broach. I talked to him last week or 2 weeks ago, I guess. And
Mhm.
yeah, he said he really enjoys the podcast. That it's something nice to listen to. And
I mean, 3 hours later on this one, maybe.
yeah, I mean,
Listen to it.
well, we knew this one was going.
Oh, yeah, nobody's listening now.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I appreciate all you guys. I appreciate everybody in the league for making it as competitive as it is. I'll play in other leagues and I enjoy them
We don't talk
casually.
about it.
I'm going to right now.
passed the time.
I can
Yeah.
honestly say I'm about to give up my other leagues because I enjoy this one so much.
Yeah, I mean, there's
I did it this year it made this year a whole lot better for me because this is the first year since like 2008 that I've not had more than one team.
Yeah.
It's the only team I had.
I had 3 leagues and
I'll get more into
It
daily
was-
fantasy if I do something else. But
That's
this,
what I did.
this league is just so much more important.
Oh, the preparation, the
everybody
There's
knows.
things you look forward to.
Everybody knows what everybody. There's no.
Everybody knows everybody. Everybody calls
there's
your
a
friends.
history. There's
Don't
a history
need an
to it.
I don't
invitation.
have to face people I don't know. And then again, like I find out stuff in other leagues where it wasn't clearly communicated because they have a trash talk group message and all of a sudden they'll throw a new rule in. I'm like, well, I don't read all that. Like, again, well run, well operated, and then just the competitiveness of it.
Everybody wants to win,
Like, we
and
just-
nobody gives up.
We just gave fantasy MVP to a guy who wasn't in the playoffs.
Right.
That's how well balanced our league is.
better. When it's pointless to do mock drafts because nobody drafts like our league does.
Nah. Mock drafts only give you an idea of
Where you can
Average draft
maybe
position
the
for
guy.
maybe.
But all it takes is one person to be higher on that guy than you are.
And it happens every year.
That happens
Every year
right.
you get that one guy that just.
If you go into the draft thinking that, man, I know exactly who I'm going to take, then you're going to lose at the draft.
You have to be Michael Smith with the first overall pick.
Right, dude.
That's it.
You can
That's
lose
the only guy
guys
who knows who he's getting.
any time point in the season. Guys
Jake.
that
You got to be willing to reach on a guy
You go third.
if you really want him. Yes,
So
Jake.
you pretty much knew who you were getting.
Well, I figured the top two,
Yeah.
but I mean, then finding out that Michael could have gone Zeke because he told me that was serious. I don't know if I'd have took Barkley over Derrick Henry. I was already back and forth on those two because I told you that.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if it was Saquon or Derrick Henry, I'd have took Derrick Henry. And how much different would that have made both of our seasons?
golly, you don't talk about a
It's
bad
It's
season.
like I feel like I could have maybe made a push all of a sudden.
Yeah, if you had Derrick Henry to
I
your
lost
team,
by
I think so.
half a point to Jordan on the week where
Mhm.
that, and then Derrick Henry went the heck off the final
It did.
3 weeks. So yeah, him it could have changed everything.
Yeah.
But
And that's the thing. We're sitting here
That's what I love.
for almost 3 hours. I think you said 2 and some change. We've been every time we go to a different segment, we bring up a guy who made one decision that changed the entirety of that.
Yes, ripple effect.
And that means this league is so tight you can't really make mistakes. You can't afford to make mistakes.
I'm blaming this on Adam Schefter. If he wouldn't have announced that Alvin Kamara had an epidural in his back, he's on
Right.
my team or Dalvin Cook's on my team.
No,
But he announced that and everybody got scared of him.
Yeah.
And I'm
Completely
I did. I did.
I did.
you get Reitmeyer that comes in, an outsider, and he's fit in very nicely.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And
This is a
Except for the fact he's
Reitmeyer.
taking away all of our 49ers.
Reitmeyer, turn down Creed so you can hear the compliments.
Never, ever turn down Creed.
Ever.
Can you take me higher?
All right.
Lightning hands.
Lightning hands, got him again.
Give me
You're joking.
Find your lack of faith disturbing.
Give your closing argument.
My closing
argument.
Guilty!
Your closing comments for the fans.
I want justice too. Nicole Sims can't rap.
Can't rap.
That piss was digital.
Yeah, I love playing in this league. I didn't expect in 2007 that
When
we
you're
would
playing it on
You're talking about
we
three
were-
people with a legal
a
pad?
three-person league on legal pad would turn into what it has. I didn't expect. I had the idea early on. I
I
didn't
still remember our
expect 13
freshman-
years.
I still remember our freshman year of college, like sending you photographs
Yeah.
at my dorm desk of my lineup. that
This
I
is
wrote
not
down.
fantasy related.
Actually, it kind of is.
Again with the HR.
But
We did Delusions and Granger. We
I'm
thought it was
telling
gonna be
you.
great. We did.
And part of me misses those days, you know, like watching
JT
it
doing
grow-
math
Yeah,
on
doing
Monday
math.
night, still trying to figure out the points.
yeah, and then like add drops.
Going to Ryan's house and you're already writing something down and something happens. You're like, what happened? How many yards?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect. I didn't know what to expect when I first brought it up to you two, and then we just
about it.
all right, let's do a
Did
fantasy draft right now in like week 2, week 3.
We did it week 2 because I think Brady
Yeah,
had thrown
Brady-
like 4 touchdowns
Yeah.
the week before.
I drafted Carson Palmer because he had gone off in week 1.
I drafted
Carson
Moss.
Drafted Tony Romo in the first round.
I did.
You
I
did?
did. I
I
drafted.
drafted a rookie named Adrian Peterson.
It's true.
What a journey.
And then the second year, adding you and Rance Diddy, I didn't think either one of y'all would be into it.
we were in a blender. Now we're here.
The Jimmy Parker year of 4 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, we've had people
Blazing the
come,
trail for people like
go.
Michael Smith to come in and draft 4 tight ends. Jimmy Parker.
We've had people come, people go.
That was our Jimmy Parker.
We should make
Shit.
a little documentary about the growing of League of Ordinary Gentlemen.
40 for 40.
I mean, dude, we're going on year 14 going into next year. Like, that's
I think
a.
we've already done.
And we've
I thought this was
advanced.
14.
This was the 14th championship.
Am I doing math again?
You already
This is 14. We're going into year 15. next
That's
year.
a pretty big
I
one.
didn't expect that. Never did I expect that. Never did I expect to be doing a weekly podcast. I thought about it. I had the idea for a while,
Yeah.
but I never thought this would actually come to fruition.
We got you, Big Daddy.
Yeah,
Fresh fruition like Jordan had this morning for breakfast.
Thank Ryan for screwing up as commissioner to make way for you to become commissioner.
That happened in baseball. It's totally different.
He's always been.
I said what I
football.
said.
He's always been football commissioner.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys continuously playing year in, year out.
Can we just go ahead and draft again? Andrew's wanting to.
Yeah, let's just go ahead. All right, fantasy draft starting tomorrow, 6 o'clock.
Draw numbers.
I was gonna
All right.
ask a question, but we need to stop
No,
this.
no.
Let's bring this up. Going forward, is this our last podcast?
I think we've got a lot of ideas. I don't think we necessarily have like 100% like know what we want to do, but we know we want to do it.
We don't want
I
to stop.
agree.
It'll probably be. I'm not gonna say we're not gonna ever be doing this probably 15 or 20 minutes. If we're getting together, we're gonna be.
It's
here for
gonna
an
be-
hour.
It's going
yeah.
to be an hour and a half.
Dude, it
Have
could
people
be.
reach out.
Yeah,
Let
We're
us know.
having these conversations every week, anyways. Are we just gonna record them and put them out there? Basically, what's
I'll
going
say
on.
this,
Pretty
guys,
much.
because if y'all don't know, we've been doing it at my house. Is like I would like to open it up to more people. If y'all want to stop by, if we do it on Saturday mornings or something like that, just grab you a biscuit at
Or we could
Wait
just
Wait a minute.
we
We
can
can
get the
grab
breakfast.
everybody a biscuit if you're coming.
No, we can
I
get
don't
the
wanna put
breakfast
all-
club back together.
and like just come here and we'll just record it of us having the same conversations we like to have anyways about sports, guys. And next year's draft possibilities and coaching moves and everything else. But I mean, it's basically
Hijinks and tomfoolery.
hijinks and tomfoolery. I agree
just
with that.
That's the
meant
name-
to
that's the name of the podcast.
keep our league of ordinary gentlemen kind of together and not just letting it disappear during the off season.
Yeah.
So
Fantasy football has really been important, I think, this year for sure.
It was that touch of normalcy.
Two things that are important this year:
Trying to win
fantasy
the election.
football and Call of Duty Warzone. Kept this friend group together.
I'm
It
telling
did,
you what,
it
if
did,
we could
man.
ever, and anybody wants to help, find a way for us to be able to do this at home. If it ever comes to where we have to do, something happens and we just have to do it from home. If we just record while we play Call of Duty, At least
Twitch,
one time.
Twitch. That's
Yeah,
all.
we could do it.
But we would
we're
get,
not twitching.
we would
That's
get
no-
canceled.
you're twitching now.
That's tweaking.
Another thing
Tomato, tomato.
is like I think that what we're doing now has worked well,
Mhm.
but
We
dude,
could put a camera on it.
well, either or.
He
or.
won't do that.
I was
Also,
gonna
the
say
HR
audio.
job
HR.
is still available.
I was
HR.
gonna say like we could. There's ways we could get this like on Spotify.
I'm for it.
And I think, I mean, I'm not saying that I think it's a little bit more convenient, but I also think that if we're going to do that, like, then we have to invest in it. Like, we got to.
I invested in a
Equipment,
microphone we
everything
use
like
for
that.
2 podcasts.
I know.
I'm down for it.
I invested in 2 microphones.
And I'm not.
One we still use. One is in my bedroom, and I've
Yeah.
never used it.
I'm not saying.
Microphones?
Spare
Microphones?
Spare bedroom.
Where do you do your fun times? Not us.
Well, I'm saying that
Man, all my good time buddies.
HR.
this could end up being a lot.
And another thing, Seinfeld.
This could end up being a lot bigger than it is right now. What we think it could be.
Oh, we're talking about the podcast?
Yes.
Okay. HR.
I mean, you really never know because
No,
my whole
no.
thing is like, dude, I just wanted to get us together
Right.
and let's just try it out, see what works, and we've had a lot of fun
Right.
doing
Throw stuff against the
But
walls.
you know, our focus always just be on the boys.
it. Yeah, I agree.
Because that's what Saturday's for.
That's what Saturday's
coming.
HR.
Uh,
That actually worked. Not HR.
I got nothing else. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. It's an honor and a privilege.
In a battlefield.
No bad.
On a battlefield.
That one goes back to sophomore year of high school, so that's
That's because I don't watch Gladiator.
yeah, unfortunate.
All right, boys.
All right, see y'all.
Are you not entertained? Later.
See ya.
Out of